In 2025, tombs began to appear all over the world, causing massive earthquakes. Inside the tombs were items known as relics. Relics were items that had previously only existed in myths, fairy tales, or epic poems, but now they had appeared in reality, bringing with them immense power and granting their lucky owners countless different abilities. Our protagonist, Seo-ju Hyun, was no exception, except his adventure began much later than most. After many hardships, Seo-ju Hyun finally found an incredibly powerful relic named the Architect. It was a relic that granted its owner a vast amount of knowledge about the tombs and crucial information about other relics. You could say Seo-ju Hyun hit the jackpot. From now on, he could start a new life as the owner of an extraordinary relic. However, just as Seo-ju Hyun obtained the relic, a law was passed restricting their personal use. So Seo-ju Hyun was forced to use all his talents to sell himself to the corporate world. But in the end, he was caught in a trap set by director Kwon Tae-jun simply because his superior skills made the man feel threatened. Although Seo-ju Hyun was very strong, his opponent in this battle was no slouch either. After a long struggle, he was now completely exhausted. As Seo-ju Hyun gave up and the serpent's maw opened wide, he swore that he would take Kwon Tae-jun's life no matter the cost, and his resentment piqued the interest of a nearby relic. "Then I shall grant you another chance. Let's see if with this opportunity you can truly claim the throne." As the strange voice rang out, a blinding light appeared. In the midst of that light, Seo-ju Hyun saw the silhouette of a crow. The light grew increasingly brighter, temporarily blinding Seo-ju Hyun. All he remembered was seeing a crow. Was that really a relic? If so, was it the hero's memento or Rangot? A moment after his vision returned, the first thing Seo-ju Hyun saw was his own intact legs. He was so shocked he shot to his feet. It wasn't just his legs, his entire body was unscathed, the wounds completely gone. "What the hell is this?" Seo-ju Hyun couldn't help but scream. He then realized he was in a police station, and because of his outburst, everyone there was staring at him. "What are you mumbling about? I'm asking for your information. You think we have all night to mess with you?" The police officer across from Seo-ju Hyun said impatiently. "Now please state your name." Seo-ju Hyun didn't know why he was here, his body completely unharmed. He didn't know if it was a dream or a hallucination because it felt too real, but he was sure it was the crow's doing. He was so lost in thought that the officer had to ask for his name 3 times, but Seo-ju Hyun didn't answer, successfully pissing the man off. "I'm losing my mind. They're saying this is the year everyone's stuck on duty. What a terrible year 2025 is." The man's words snapped Seo-ju Hyun out of his daze. "What did he just say? Is this 2025? What the hell is going on?" Seo-ju Hyun's eyes darted around before landing on the digital clock on the wall. It was indeed January 1st, 2025, and on closer inspection, the high school kid sitting next to him looked vaguely familiar. He remembered getting into a fight with a drunk high school kid and being dragged to the police station a long time ago. Seo-ju Hyun's hands unconsciously clenched into fists. What was happening was truly unbelievable. So the chance that Crow mentioned was to turn back time, sending him 15 years into the past. If this was January 2025, then the world was still at peace, and the tombs had not yet appeared. This was also before the god-rank relics had even appeared. A bold thought flashed through Seo-ju Hyun's mind. With the knowledge from his past life, he could collect all the relics before anyone else. At this thought, Seo-ju Hyun couldn't help but smirk. "Haha, things are starting to get exciting." After the world was overrun by tombs and relics, Seo-ju Hyun had thought nothing could surprise him anymore, having already experienced so many impossible things. And yet he'd been surprised 3 times in a short span. First, he never expected that a professional tomb raider like himself would one day be trembling in fear inside a tomb. Second, he was even more surprised that the mission had been a trap set by Kwon Tae-jun. And finally, the most unexpected thing of all was being suddenly reborn 15 years in the past right before he kicked the bucket. Seo-ju Hyun could never have imagined this happening, but it seemed to be the greatest opportunity he'd ever had because now he could claim the relics before anyone else. "Are you even listening to me?" A voice pierced Seo-ju Hyun's eardrums, pulling him back to reality. "What's wrong with you, spacing out and not listening to a police officer? Do you think this is a joke?" This time the speaker was the high school kid's mother. She was loudly berating Seo-ju Hyun, calling him a thug for laying a hand on a high schooler and demanding he either pay a settlement or go to jail. The woman's incessant nagging was getting on Seo-ju Hyun's nerves. "All right, I need to deal with this first." Even though it happened 15 years ago, he remembered it all crystal clear. This brat had been drunk and kept trying to pick a fight with Seo-ju Hyun. He had tried to ignore him at first, but the kid wouldn't let up, so Seo-ju Hyun got pissed and was about to deck him. However, it seemed to have been the kid's plan all along because back then, before Seo-ju Hyun even laid a finger on him, the kid flopped to the ground and played the victim. In the end, he had to get on his knees, apologize to the mother and son, and pay them a settlement to avoid a lawsuit. Thinking back on it made Seo-ju Hyun's blood boil. Most importantly, he didn't have a single cent for a settlement right now. No money. The thought made Seo-ju Hyun start to worry. If he had no money, how was he supposed to start collecting all those relics? Seo-ju Hyun was the type to get easily sidetracked. As a result, he once again got lost in thought and forgot about the problem at hand. Being ignored by Seo-ju Hyun, the kid's mother trembled with rage and raised her hand to slap him. However, even though he was back in a young man's body, his reflexes and experience were still those of the Tomb Raider king who had adventured for half his life. So he easily caught her hand. Even Seo-ju Hyun himself was surprised as he acted on instinct. It seemed that even though the architect relic was gone, his combat abilities remained intact. This would be his greatest advantage in the process of recollecting the relics. At this thought, Seo-ju Hyun's confidence surged. Still gripping the woman's wrist with one hand, he stood up and said, "Calm down, ma'am. Your son was the one who started it. Besides, don't you think you're being ridiculous? Like mother, like son." As Seo-ju Hyun said this, the punk immediately blew a fuse. He lunged at him, throwing a punch in a fit of rage. "What did you say? You bastard, I was going to be generous and let you off." But he didn't even finish his sentence as his fist missed its mark when Seo-ju Hyun dodged. Then, using the momentum, he grabbed the kid's wrist and slammed him to the ground. His smug face smashed hard against the floor and he screamed in pain. Seo-ju Hyun's body felt much lighter than before, probably because he wasn't yet suffering from the side effects of any relics. At this point, the police officers could no longer just stand by and watch. Ben stood up and yelled, "That's enough! What do you think you're doing in a police station?" Seo-ju Hyun let go, then turned and said nonchalantly to the officers, "Look, I don't have any money to give them, so just throw me in a cell." Hearing this, the kid's mother's eyes went wide and she shrieked, "Are you insane? You'd rather get a criminal record than pay the settlement. Fine, what a loser." If this were the Seo-ju Hyun from his past life, he would have been genuinely scared. But now the words criminal record meant nothing to him. Because once the relics appeared, the world would descend into chaos and the rule of law would become meaningless. Sitting in the holding cell, Seo-ju Hyun did a lot of thinking. Luckily, he still had his fighting skills, but that wasn't enough. If he wanted to get his hands on a lot of artifacts, he had to figure out a way to make money. Just then, a flash of purple light went past Seo-ju Hyun's eyes. He immediately jumped to his feet, looked all around, and yelled, "That crow, you're watching me, aren't you? What the hell did you do to me?" There was no answer, but several system windows popped up one after another in front of Seo-ju Hyun. A few question marks appeared above his head. "You damn crow, a game screen? You think my life is just some game?" Out of frustration, Seo-ju Hyun threw a punch, but his fist went right through the window. Then another window appeared in front of him. It was a new quest requiring Seo-ju Hyun to restore the 4 basic skills of a Tomb Raider. Currently, the only skill that had been awakened was the F-rank scout skill, which allowed Seo-ju Hyun to see through everything within a 3-foot radius. "What the hell? Keep it down!" Because of Seo-ju Hyun's earlier shout, a police officer had come down to the holding cell to warn him. Based on the man's reaction, Seo-ju Hyun was certain that he was the only one who could see the system screen. Although he didn't know where it came from, on second thought, having a system was actually pretty interesting. Besides, that F-rank scout skill allowed him to see through everything within a 3-foot radius. It was identical to the skill he had obtained from the architect's artifact in his previous life. It seemed all his skills from his past life had been converted into this system, and he would have to rely on it to restore all of his former powers. Thinking about it, Seo-ju Hyun realized this thing was pretty useful. Because if he really had these skills, he wouldn't have to struggle to find that architect's artifact anymore. But Seo-ju Hyun couldn't figure out what other tricks that crow was planning because artifacts don't usually just help humans for no reason. Just as Seo-ju Hyun was thinking about this, he heard someone call his name. Looking through the bars of the holding cell, Seo-ju Hyun saw a familiar face, Detective Kim Jong-yu. He was the older brother figure who had taken care of him after he became an orphan, and had always treated him like a real brother. Kim Jong-yu was there to bail Seo-ju Hyun out and assured him that he wouldn't get a criminal record from this incident. He went on and on about how that high school punk had caused trouble many times before, but all Seo-ju Hyun could focus on was Kim Jong-yu's youthful face from 15 years ago. This feeling was truly surreal. Then he suddenly thought of something and asked, "Jong-Hyun, there's something I want to ask you. Have you received any reports about unusual incidents? Or maybe reports related to superpowers?" "What are you drunk?" Kim Jong-yu immediately shot back. He didn't look like he was lying. Seo-ju Hyun guessed that at this point in time, no artifact users had appeared yet. "All right, I was just kidding. You should go home and rest." Seoju Hyun ushered Kim Jong-yu out and then began to think. January 1st, 2025. This was clearly the time when tombs had appeared in many places, but there hadn't been any major incidents yet because artifact users hadn't emerged. In other words, it was the perfect time for him to act since he could already use skills. The chances of success were very high, but the problem was that he had no money, because the best artifacts would appear somewhere in Europe or the Americas. Where was he supposed to get the money for a plane ticket? Well, Seoju Hyun, why are you wandering around at this hour? Now that you've run into us, you'd better make it worth our while. Someone else called out to Seoju Hyun. It was only his first day back, and he was already running into so many familiar faces. The moment Seoju Hyun saw the thugs in front of him, the corners of his mouth curled into a sinister smile. It looked like he'd just found his source of cash. Hey, Seoju Hyun, you got no manners? When you see your seniors, you're supposed to get on your knees and greet them. When Seoju Hyun didn't respond, the guy continued in an arrogant tone. This bastard's name was Park Kyung-tae. He was originally a street punk, but now he and his older sister Park Kyung-ju worked as art dealers. The two of them ran a few art exhibition venues and did nothing but cause trouble all day long. Back in high school, Seoju Hyun had worked part-time for them because he desperately needed money. He had only intended to work there for a short time, but Park Kyung-tae wouldn't let him go easily and forced him to work until he turned 20. Back then, even though he worked his ass off, Seoju Hyun was constantly bullied. They kept him there by threatening to withhold his pay and treated him like a dog. Seeing them again now, Seoju Hyun's anger was on the verge of exploding. When he didn't answer, a blonde-haired guy stepped forward and started yelling, "Why the hell aren't you answering, you bastard? Do you need a beating to knock some sense into you?" As soon as he finished the sentence, Seoju Hyun's fist flew out. His body felt light, but his fist was powerful. The guy was instantly knocked off his feet, falling flat on his back as the others stared in shock. Before they could recover from the shock, Seoju Hyun declared loudly, "You pieces of trash! I'm declaring that as of today, I'm done working for you. And before I go, you're going to pay up all my back wages and severance pay." As he said this, Seoju Hyun cracked his knuckles, his eyes turning incredibly dangerous. The group of thugs was taken aback by his aura. They froze for a few seconds, then burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha, I think this guy's tired of living. Did getting beaten so much make you stupid?" Then one of them rushed at him, but Seoju Hyun's fist was ferocious, and in a flash he had knocked another one down. After landing the punch, he even grabbed the guy's hair and kneed him in the face. That blow was enough to knock the guy out cold. It was surprising enough that Seoju Hyun had suddenly grown a spine, but the fact that he was now so strong shocked the thugs even more. To play it safe, they decided to jump him all at once, but the result was no different than it was for the first two guys. With his 15 years of fighting experience, Seoju Hyun easily took care of them in the blink of an eye. Seeing the panicked looks on the thugs' faces, Seoju Hyun felt incredibly satisfied. This was the result of 15 long years of facing all sorts of enemies. Using that experience to teach his old bullies a lesson felt so damn good. "Are you done yet? I almost feel sorry for you because the world is only going to get tougher from here on out." Seeing his arrogance, Park Kyung-tae got so angry he even pulled out a knife. "We took you in, we taught you. And this is how you repay us. Looks like I'll have to gut you to make you understand, huh?" Seeing the sharp knife, Park Kyung-tae's underlings hurriedly tried to stop him, but he was blinded by rage. Park Kyung-tae didn't care about the law or the police anymore. He just wanted to kill Seoju Hyun. However, he noticed something unusual. The knife in Park Kyung-tae's hand was actually an artifact. Although he didn't know how the guy had gotten it, it wasn't all that surprising. Most artifacts attracted humans by creating massive tombs, but some hid themselves secretly within society. In any case, after seeing it, Seoju Hyun made a decision that knife would be the first artifact he'd possess in this life. Park Kyung-tae charged aggressively, swinging the knife wildly, but Seoju Hyun was as agile as a leopard and leaned back to dodge. He used the momentum to grab his opponent's arm, twisting it back and forcing the tip of the knife against the man's own throat. Park Kyung-tae's arm trembled uncontrollably because if Seoju Hyun applied just a little more force, the knife would plunge straight into his throat. "You've got some nerve pulling a knife on me," Seoju Hyun whispered in his ear, sending shivers down the man's spine. The remaining thugs watched anxiously, but none of them dared to move, afraid that Seoju Hyun would do something rash and kill their boss. However, he had no interest in taking this scumbag's life and simply snatched the knife from his hand. "I'll be taking this knife. Now watch and learn how it's supposed to be used." Seoju Hyun gripped the artifact tightly in his hand and activated his scout skill. Instantly, his eyes turned into a scanner, seeing right through the internal structure of the thugs' bodies. But this bunch of scoundrels were gluttons for punishment. Even after Seo-ju Hyun handed them their asses, they still wanted to charge at him again. This time, they couldn't even lay a finger on him. Instead, they were the ones cut by that knife. They started screaming their heads off in pain, giving Seo-ju Hyun a splitting headache. "Stop screaming, I didn't even cut that deep. But if you don't cough up the money, things are gonna get a whole lot worse. Hand over the money if you don't want to die," Seo-ju Hyun threatened. The mental pressure radiating from him was just too much, and combined with the beatdown they just took, the group finally relented. They were forced to give Seo-ju Hyun the money. Afterwards, Park Kyung-tae had no choice but to call his older sister Park Kyung-ju and snitch. The person on the other end of the line practically screamed into the phone after hearing the story. "What did you say?" "You and your whole crew got beaten to a pulp by that Seo-ju Hyun punk and had your money stolen. If you're going to make up an excuse, couldn't you have come up with something more believable?" "Who's going to believe that?" Park Kyung-tae whined, trying to defend himself. It made sense that Park Kyung-ju didn't believe him since Seo-ju Hyun had always been the weakling they bullied. But I don't know what's going on either. Just yesterday he couldn't throw a punch to save his life, but now he's completely different. His eyes were filled with killing intent, and he fought viciously. Park Kyung-ju sighed, then asked, "So how much money did you lose in total?" "I lost all the money in the bank and the merchandise for the deal, too," Park Kyung-tae stammered. Another piercing scream awaited him. "You moron! You lost the statue, too." Back then, after taking all the cash from Park Kyung-tae's crew, Seo-ju Hyun had complained it wasn't enough. His murderous gaze swept over the thugs, and he threatened, "If I find anything else on you, you're dead." The threat worked, because without Seo-ju Hyun even having to search them, Park Kyung-tae took out a golden Buddha statue. Seo-ju Hyun didn't know what it was, but it looked expensive. Besides, the thugs kept pleading, "Please don't take it." This made Seo-ju Hyun even more certain of its value, and he ended up taking it despite the desperate cries of Park Kyung-tae's crew. After hearing the story, Park Kyung-ju's face turned ashen and her voice was ice cold. "Get it back at all costs. Get it back for me this instant, you pea-brained idiots." After stealing the item, Seo-ju Hyun immediately took it to a pawn shop hoping to make a fortune. But the shop owner took one look and said the statue wasn't even worth 50,000 won, advising him to just take it home for decoration. Impossible, Seo-ju Hyun couldn't believe it, but the owner firmly insisted he could tell just by looking. Knowing no one would buy it, Seo-ju Hyun thought for a long time. That bastard Park Kyung-tae, he acted as if this statue was worth millions. Could it really be just junk? He was still deep in thought long after leaving the pawn shop. Seo-ju Hyun had a strong feeling that this thing was valuable. Could his gut feeling be wrong because the architect's relic wasn't present? Seo-ju Hyun's gaze remained fixed on the statue. Then a system window popped up announcing that thanks to his reconnaissance skill, he had detected something suspicious inside the Buddha statue. Seo-ju Hyun let out an "ah." He got it now. The thing that Park Kyung-tae was so afraid of losing was inside the statue. He immediately took out the relic knife and with a few simple swings split the statue into 4 pieces. Inside was a plastic bottle containing some kind of liquid. Although he didn't know exactly what it was, Seo-ju Hyun immediately guessed it was some kind of narcotic. Come to think of it, Park Kyung-tae and his sister owned hundreds of art studios. If all those studios were just a front to sell illegal drugs, it would make sense how they got so rich. Besides, the 2 Park siblings didn't seem like the type to make money, honestly. At this thought, he immediately pulled out his phone to call Kim Jong-woo. The reward for reporting the possession of illegal substances was a whopping 100,000,000,001, so why not report it? Meanwhile, Park Kyung-ju and her art studio were running into some trouble. Because she failed to deliver the goods to a client on time, she was getting an earful from some chairman. After Park Kyung-ju begged until she was blue in the face for a delivery extension, Park Kyung-tae returned his face all bruised. More importantly, he was being escorted by 2 complete strangers. "Where the hell have you been? Did you get the Buddha statue back?" Park Kyung-ju yelled. But as soon as the words left her mouth, she noticed something was off, because Park Kyung-tae was in handcuffs. "We received a tip that you are running an illegal drug trafficking operation," Kim Jong-woo said, presenting his ID as he made the accusation. Despite being accused by the police, Park Kyung-ju naturally denied everything. She claimed her establishment was filled with nothing but works of art and that she was a perfectly law-abiding citizen. Kim Jong-woo couldn't help but laugh. "Why do you criminals always say the same thing? It's hilarious. We already have all the evidence we need. We're also well aware that this isn't all you have. You're stashing a whole lot more of this in your warehouse, aren't you?" Hearing this, Park Kyung-ju froze at a loss for words. Meanwhile, Seo-ju Hyun had already led another team of police officers to the warehouse. He easily unlocked the door thanks to his extraordinary memory. In his past life, memorization was arguably Seo Ju-hyun's only real talent. It was precisely because of this ability that Park Kyung-ju had wanted to exploit him. When he worked in the warehouse, he'd struggled at first because each storage unit had a different passcode. At first, Seo Ju-hyun didn't suspect anything. He just found it annoying to have to memorize them all. Little did he know it would become the key to exposing these criminals in this life. Everything was going according to plan. Now, as soon as he got the reward money, he could start collecting relics. Just the thought of it made Seo Ju-hyun feel incredibly satisfied. Then he borrowed a phone from one of the officers with him to call Kim Jong-woo. By then, he had already arrested Park Kyung-ju, who was still resisting fiercely. Seo Ju-hyun asked Kim Jong-woo to hand the phone to Park Kyung-ju. A moment later, his taunting voice came through the phone. "Hello there, ma'am. You really should have treated me better. When I worked hard, you should have paid me what I was owed. Also, you should change the warehouse passwords every 6 months. Oh, but I guess it's too late for that now. Enjoy your little vacation in prison." At first, Park Kyung-ju was confident that the police wouldn't be able to crack the codes, but when she heard Seo Ju-hyun's words, the color drained from her face. The madwoman began to curse, wildly swearing she would kill Seo Ju-hyun. But she had no chance for revenge now with the prison gates wide open and waiting for her. That evening, Seo Ju-hyun headed home feeling more content than ever. On the way, he received a text from Kim Jong-woo. "Ju-hyun, you did great. I'm proud of you. You'll be receiving the 100,000,001 reward soon. Remember not to blow it all at once. You need to learn how to spend money wisely." Got it. The messages warmed Seo Ju-hyun's heart. Even though Kim Jong-woo had his own family and lived separately now, he always worried about him like a real little brother. Putting that aside, 100,000,001 was a very good start. Now Seo Ju-hyun had the capital to start preparing for his relic collection. He swore he would find them before that bastard Kwon Tae-jun and make the old man pay for what he did to him in his past life. Lost in thought, Seo Ju-hyun soon found himself near his home. However, the sight before him made his jaw drop in astonishment. Where did my house go? The apartment building where he lived was now overlaid by a tomb. This had to be a tomb created by a relic. The people gathered around were utterly terrified. Their reaction was hardly surprising. It's only natural for people who have never seen a tomb before to panic at a sight like this. Both artifacts and tombs hold terrifying power, which is why they often cause such major disturbances. Thinking back around this time in his past life, Seo Ju-hyun had received a call from his roommate. He had frantically told him that their apartment had disappeared and he didn't know what to do. At the time, Seo Ju-hyun didn't understand what was happening and couldn't stay on the phone long because Park Kyung-tae was forcing him to do hard labor. When he finished his work and returned home, everything was normal, so Seo Ju-hyun just thought his roommate had been joking. But thinking back now, the fact that there were no strange phenomena when he got home meant the tomb had disappeared because someone had already successfully conquered it. Seo Ju-hyun looked at the crowd gathered around and guessed that the person responsible was somewhere nearby. But in this life, he wouldn't let things happen the same way. The artifact inside that tomb had to be his. "Please don't shoot me!" A familiar voice rang out, making Seo Ju-hyun turn his head. He recognized the voice as belonging to Kim Jong-hoon, his roommate, who had a gun pointed at him by a military officer. "Shut up! Do I look like I'm joking with you? Stop asking pointless questions! Where do you live?" Just as he finished speaking, a kick from Seo Ju-hyun caught him in the chin, sending him stumbling backward. Everyone was stunned by his action, but Seo Ju-hyun remained perfectly calm. "How dare you point a gun at a civilian?" After saying that, he turned to Kim Jong-hoon. "Long time no see. You haven't changed a bit, you fat crybaby." A confused look appeared on Kim Jong-hoon's face, which was understandable. To Seo Ju-hyun, it had really been 15 years since they'd met, but for Kim Jong-hoon, they had just seen each other that morning. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. After a moment on the ground, the officer staggered back up. Seo Ju-hyun's jarring kick seemed to have calmed him down. "Sorry I lost control for a moment there." "Whatever, but explain this. Why is the military here?" "Aren't these kinds of situations usually handled by the police?" Seo Ju-hyun demanded. He had sensed something was off the moment he saw the military. "Don't tell me you guys are trying to enter that tomb." "That's classified information," the military officer replied tensely. Seo Ju-hyun was determined to find out why, since all he knew now was that the government could be a potential rival. But how did they know about the existence of artifacts so early? So Seo Ju-hyun stepped forward and pressed the officer. "Don't mess with me. I live in that building, so I have a right to know the truth. I need to know why the fully armed military is here." "I don't think you realize what a huge mistake you're making. You know I can report you to the proper authorities for pointing a gun at a civilian? If you're smart, you won't make this any worse. I just want to know why." The more Seo-ju Hyun spoke, the more tense the soldier became. Finally, he gave in and stammered that the military was trying to investigate the tomb and excavate its contents, reassuring Seo-ju Hyun by promising they would ensure the absolute safety of all civilians. "We've brought in foreign experts, so I'm sure everything will be fine," he added. The words "foreign experts" all but confirmed Seo-ju Hyun's suspicions. It seemed they were the ones who had cleared the tomb in his past life, because at this point the Korean government wasn't capable of doing so. "All right, thanks for telling me. I feel safer now." "Keep up the good work," Seo-ju Hyun told the soldier, then turned back to Kim Jong-un, telling him not to do anything and to stay put. Before Kim Jong-un could even process what was happening, Seo-ju Hyun was gone like the wind. Although he felt his roommate was acting very strangely today, Seo-ju Hyun didn't give Kim Jong-un any chance to ask what was going on. At that moment behind the tomb, a foreign expert named Linda Walker was indeed present. On the phone, she was speaking with someone from her home country. "Are you sure the Korean government doesn't know anything about tombs?" "I believe so. Why do you keep asking?" The person on the other end replied. "Because there are a lot of soldiers here. They're just doing their best to support us." "All right, a lot of people there understand English, so don't say too much." "What's the mission status?" "The explosive device will be activated soon." "Everything is going smoothly. I won't let my guard down until the very end," Linda affirmed before hanging up. But just as she ended the call, she saw a face she really didn't want to see. It was Kiyoshi from the Japanese excavation team. His appearance here posed a major obstacle to Linda's plan to deceive the Korean government and monopolize the artifact. "You look surprised, don't you? I'm the one who should be here, not you. After all, we're Korea's neighbors. You came all the way from the U.S., which is quite a distance, isn't it? Are you people so desperate you'd come all the way here to steal?" The word steal made Linda grind her teeth in anger. She claimed she was here on behalf of her organization to recover an artifact stolen from Interpol and that her mission was to maintain peace and conduct safe experiments related to the artifact. But of course, Kiyoshi didn't buy her clumsy excuse. "Oh, how wonderful. So if we promise to conduct safe experiments, does that mean we get to keep the artifact?" "We all know you people aren't allowed to." Kiyoshi's tone was dripping with sarcasm. "Why do you think we should believe you? We both have the same goal now, so let's stop this pointless talk. I guarantee the artifact will be ours." Kiyoshi didn't bother hiding his intentions and laid his cards on the table with Linda. Of course, she was also determined to secure the artifact for her own country's organization. And their entire conversation was overheard by Seo-ju Hyun. With a single glance, he had guessed their identities: a CIA agent and a member of the Japanese excavation team. Moreover, they were both quite talented. Although tombs were beginning to appear all over the world at this time, the existence of artifacts and tombs was still only considered an omen. At that time, a few countries were the first to begin understanding the true meaning behind the existence of artifacts, with Japan and the U.S. being the earliest among them. They began conducting secret research on artifacts and snooping around in other countries. In other words, both Linda and Kiyoshi had come to Korea with the goal of monopolizing this artifact. But the variable in this life was Seo-ju Hyun's return, and he swore he would not let this artifact slip away. He just didn't understand why those two were leisurely standing there arguing when there wasn't much time left. It seemed that because artifacts and tombs hadn't been around for long, their skills were still quite amateurish. They were even planning to blow up the tomb. In that case, he would have to seize the opportunity and get a head start. Using his experience, Seo-ju Hyun quickly found the ancient tomb hieroglyphs. Artifacts were actually very peculiar entities. They wanted to introduce themselves in their own way and craved humanity's attention as if they thought they were the main characters of a fantasy world. And these ancient texts were one of the ways artifacts attracted humanity's attention. If you could decipher them, the artifact would tell you where the entrance was, as well as what kinds of traps were inside the tomb. Basically, the ancient texts gave you very detailed information about the tomb. At this point in time, most people couldn't decipher these ancient texts accurately, but for someone with 15 years of experience like Seo-ju Hyun, it was a piece of cake. After observing for a while, he found the entrance. Just then, a system window appeared announcing that Seo-ju Hyun had unlocked a new title, Special Decipherer, and discovered another of the 4 Tomb Raider skills, Linguistics. This skill allowed him to understand, learn, and conceptualize any language. It also allowed the user to hear the voices of and communicate with artifacts. Seo-ju Hyun didn't think he would unlock another new skill so quickly. The mission was already halfway complete. Now it was time to enter the tomb. Seo-ju Hyun followed a small channel and finally found the entrance. He took out the relic he had stolen from Park Kyung-tae and struck it hard. The characters on the ancient stone pillar faded, and the letter in the center flashed with a brilliant yellow light. Ju Hyun, who was standing still and watching, suddenly saw a system window appear next to him. It displayed a warning, "You have detected an approaching spiritual pressure." Immediately after, an intense surge of energy suddenly erupted from the ground. A brilliant red pillar of light shot straight up into the sky, instantly bathing the entire surrounding area in a dazzling red glow. The commotion was so loud that Linda and Kiyoshi quickly noticed the pillar of light. "What the hell is that?" A subordinate ran up to report. "It seems the tomb's gate has been opened." Kiyoshi was skeptical that the light was the entrance. Eager to see for himself, he took off in a flash. Linda anxiously tried to stop him. "Wait," Kiyoshi walked over to a young soldier and instructed, "You guys stay here. A second explosion could happen at any moment. Make sure no civilians get close, you hear me?" Linda, witnessing the scene, couldn't help but say sarcastically, "Such a cunning bastard." Kiyoshi didn't deny it, just giving a wry smile. "If those guys interfere with our work, things will only get more complicated." "Come on, you know that. Why are you still blaming me?" The two of them quickly arrived at the location of the pillar of light, exclaiming joyfully, "This is it!" Up close, they could see it was a massive pillar of light. Kiyoshi peered down and muttered, "Damn, it's so bright I can't even see the bottom." Linda picked up a rock and threw it straight down to gauge the depth. The two stood at the edge of the deep pit, listening silently for a sound to echo up. After a moment, Kiyoshi looked at her excitedly. "Looks like there's water down there." Linda was more cautious. "But it's deep." Kiyoshi thought for a second, then jumped straight down. "In that case—" Linda tried to stop him, but it was too late. "Wait!" Inside the tomb, Ju-hyun felt his way along the cliff wall in the darkness. He detected a sound behind him and muttered expressionlessly, "Fools, they're tailing me." Ju-hyun suddenly had an idea. He used his lighter to illuminate the ancient characters on the wall. "Let's make things a little difficult for them." With preparations complete, Ju-hyun chuckled softly. "All right," and activated the trap. Nearby, Kiyoshi struggled to crawl ashore, gasping and inhaling groundwater. Linda, who had just rappelled down, taunted, not even bothering to plan ahead, real smart. Just then, they both heard something. Linda whipped around, scanning the area behind her with her flashlight. "What's that sound?" Kiyoshi frowned. "It's getting closer." When they could finally see, a huge torrent of water was rushing toward them. Kiyoshi immediately turned and ran screaming in panic. "What the hell? Where is this water coming from?" Linda followed him, but they were no match for the force of the water. They were immediately engulfed by the current. Kiyoshi and Linda flailed in the freezing water, coughing and struggling. Meanwhile, Ju-hyun calmly made his way down the path, his eyes focused ahead. His eyes suddenly lit up. Ju-hyun muttered under his breath, "Found it." In front of him was a blue lake, its surface reflecting a faint light. Ju-hyun glanced down at the dagger in his hand. "This is all I have right now, so I guess I'll have to use it." Without another thought, he threw the dagger into the lake. Immediately, the once calm surface of the lake began to ripple outward in concentric circles. A giant snake suddenly emerged from the water, its tongue flicking out as it faced Ju-hyun. It spoke slowly. "Which wretched soul just dropped something?" The snake opened its mouth wide, revealing two daggers neatly placed inside. It urged, "Now answer me. There is a golden dagger and a silver dagger. Which one is yours?" The corners of Ju-hyun's mouth curled up. Such an easy question, he thought. As far as he knew, the relic in this tomb was called the Golden Axe Silver Axe. It was based on a fairy tale originating from Aesop's fable, The Honest Woodcutter. Ju-hyun thought to himself that the story was known in many countries, so foreigners could easily pass this test. He smirked. "But it's too late. This relic is mine." Ju-hyun looked up and answered the snake, "Neither of them is mine." Hearing his answer, the giant snake's eyes widened. It opened its mouth again, revealing a dagger with a golden hilt. "Then is this one yours?" Ju-hyun didn't answer immediately, thinking to himself, "Yes, that's mine. If I answer that way, I'll not only get my dagger back, but also be gifted the golden and silver axes." But things were never that simple. His eyes were fixed intently on the snake, but Ju-hyun smiled and asked, "May I check if that is truly my weapon?" The snake agreed, "Of course." It unsuspectingly approached Ju-hyun, obediently opening its mouth for him. The dagger lay inside the snake's mouth, and Ju-hyun slowly gripped its hilt. The next second, he suddenly used that very dagger to slash deep into the snake's body. As fresh blood spurted out, it roared in fury. "What are you doing? Why would you do that when you were about to complete the trial?" Ju-hyun smirked. "Shut up, you knew I'd never trust you, Relic." Looking at the snake lying by the lake, he slowly analyzed, "Even if I passed the trial, there's no guarantee you'd reward me with something normal. You relics are all the same." Ju-hyun said in a low voice, "Who's to say the reward you give me wouldn't turn me into a psychopathic killer?" The snake was stunned. "How could a mere mortal like you know about that?" To briefly explain the truth was that the owner of the golden and silver axes had turned into a crazed murderer. The number of people killed by this relic was countless. Ju-hyun calmly exposed the snake's plot. You were planning to give me a fake cursed relic. How ridiculous! This was the true purpose of the trial from the very beginning. As soon as he finished speaking, he stomped his foot and leaped forward. In a flash, Ju-hyun was sitting firmly on the snake's back, plunging the blade deep into its body and causing it to roar in pain. He gritted his teeth and applied more force. Pay for your crimes, Relic. The snake glared at Ju-hyun. Do you really believe you can use me this way? Normally, after clearing a trap-filled tomb, if you pass the Relic's trial, you receive a reward. Basically, by passing the trial and overcoming adversity, the Relic grants its user countless special abilities. Afterward, the Relic and the user develop a symbiotic relationship. This is what's considered normal in the relationship between humans and Relics. However, the reality is that Relics always harbor a hatred for humans as they are designed and intended to cause them harm. After using a Relic for a while, humans often fall ill. Ju-hyun understood this well. That's why Relic users often possess healing relics to gain more power and authority. That's why that bastard always used me, Ju-hyun always told himself. Therefore, he didn't need a so-called relationship with the relics. Damn it! At that thought, Ju-hyun's attacks became even more ruthless, making the snake writhe and roar. It hurts, you bastard. He paid it no mind, coldly looking down at the monster beneath him. Let's see how long you can last. I will establish my dominance and make you obey. The snake thrashed wildly, trying to throw Ju-hyun off. Stop it, human! He raised an eyebrow, smiling sinisterly. Hurts, doesn't it? Let's see how long you can take it. Ju-hyun applied more force, pressing the dagger deeper into the snake's body. I will establish my dominance and make you obey. It should be known that you need a certain level of talent to control a relic. If you have no talent at all, you will be devoured by them. Specifically, scholars divide this talent into 3 main groups. The first group is sociability, the ability to form a relationship with the relic. The second group is dominance, the power to command and control the relic. Finally, the third group is compatibility, a strong bond between the user and the relic as if they were made for each other. For example, a musician finding a musical instrument relic. In reality, most people want to enhance their sociability. It is the easiest way to use a relic and allows you to gain its full power. Theoretically, yes, but choosing that path is just too brutal. When a relic grows close to its master, it begins to emit a poison that slowly weakens them. Thinking this, Ju-hyun became even more resolute in his choice. That's why I never go for the social approach. The ones who choose that path are nothing but dogs. Kneel before me, Relic. With a ferocious look, he threatened coldly. If you don't obey me, I'll tear you to shreds. You think I won't do it? The giant snake couldn't believe what it was hearing, staring in horror. What? I thought you humans craved us. In a flash, its body vanished, transforming into a golden axe. Success, Ju-hyun exclaimed in satisfaction. As he took the relic, the system window appeared once again. It announced that Ju-hyun had unlocked a new skill called Tomb Excavation, the basic skill of a tomb raider. The interface displayed a series of skill parameters. Ju-hyun skimmed through them, grinning in amusement. I can get more skills. Now I just need to unlock one more. I wonder what I have to do to get it. The very next second, another system window suddenly appeared. He looked at it dubiously. The notification left Ju-hyun stunned. The system had registered the title Relic Abuser for him. This title enhanced his dominance ability. Ju-hyun looked up and grumbled at the empty air. Hey, how the hell did I get labeled a Relic Abuser? Well, it's not like it matters if my social ability goes down. I don't need it anyway. Suddenly a sound echoed, putting him on immediate alert. We found it, a pond. Linda and Kyoshi had finally caught up. They chatted and laughed cheerfully. This is exactly as the prophet said. Ju-hyun, already hidden, narrowed his eyes at the two of them. Those bastards got here faster than I thought. Kyoshi eagerly pulled out a jar. Come out, Relic. What are you planning to do? Linda pressed. He didn't bother answering, hastily pushing the jar into the pond. What are you doing? Linda asked, even more puzzled. Watching Kyoshi's actions, Ju-hyun immediately understood his goal. He smirked. Fools, it's too late. He thought to himself, I should watch them for a bit. I have a feeling they'll get in my way later. A thought crossed Ju-hyun's mind as he quietly drew his dagger. Should I just kill them now? As Ju-hyun was hesitating, the system window appeared again, catching his attention. It displayed the stats of the relic in Ju-hyun's hand. Egyptian funeral dagger. Max uses 54 100ths. He paid particular attention to the last line of information about its uses. It's already been used. Ju-hyun pulled his hand back, squinting with a wry smile. Is this your way of telling me to think carefully? Meanwhile, on the other side of the pond, Kyoshi was fuming. Why isn't anything happening? The prophecy said I had to throw an item into the pond. Linda immediately caught the keyword prophecy. So there's a user of a prophet relic in Japan. Kiyoshi was in a foul mood. He snapped back, "That's not important right now." He gestured wildly. "Someone already stole the relic. This is troublesome. It means more people know about them." True. Linda couldn't deny it. Her eyes scanned the area before she looked down thoughtfully. These marks on the ground, they look like someone's footprints. Someone was definitely here. In the silence, a sudden noise rang out instantly, grabbing Kiyoshi's attention. What was that? He had no idea that Ju-Haeon had just casually tossed some stones to create a distraction. Kiyoshi yelled frantically. The sound came from over there. Ju-Haeon snickered to himself. They're so easy to fool. I wonder how they'll escape when the tomb collapses. He ordered the golden axe in his hand to seal the tomb. As a result, the ground around them suddenly started to shake. What the hell? Kiyoshi panicked. Ju-Haeon ignored the two of them panicking and calmly left. Behind him, the other two were scrambling to find a way out. The exit's up ahead! Wait, where's the exit? Let's go back the way we came. In a deserted alley, a manhole cover was suddenly pushed open from below. Ju-Haeon climbed out, dusting off his clothes. The tomb's exit led directly to this sewer. My clothes are filthy, but I doubt anyone will notice. Later, when he returned to his apartment, the tomb that had enveloped the building was gone. Everyone was confused at first, but they all eventually returned home. Ju-Haeon's friend was standing dazed in the crowd when he heard someone call his name Kim Dong-hun. Ju-Haeon teased him with a grin. Why are you spacing out? His friend excitedly told Ju-Haeon, it's gone. The huge mountain is gone. Ju-Haeon seemed unconcerned, waving it off as he walked ahead. Good for us, then. I'm starving, let's go home. Dong-hun hurried to catch up. Is it safe to go in now? What if we get buried alive? The man in front of him answered confidently, it's fine. Meanwhile, Kiyoshi was on the phone. What did you say, there was another prophecy that someone in Korea got to it before we did? He complained irritably. You should have told me sooner. What were you thinking omitting such crucial information? The person on the other end replied, we didn't find out until just now. You know how those future-predicting relics can be. Kiyoshi's hand, which was resting on his thigh, began to tremble. He pressed, wait, they can't read kanji. That's right, the other party quickly confirmed. Kiyoshi could no longer keep his composure, leaping to his feet and yelling into the phone, this is so frustrating. You're all scholars and you can't even read it. The person on the other end just laughed nonchalantly. You know how kids are these days. The speaker then promised, I'll do my best to prevent a repeat of tonight's events. Once again, don't be careless and keep up the effort. Kiyoshi was a little surprised by the advice that followed, and you should be more on your guard. The person who took the relic today doesn't seem to be ordinary. The prophecy concerning that individual is rather disturbing. Cut to an apartment. A pot of ramen and empty beer cans were on the table. A news anchor's voice rang out. It says he is the one who will swallow the world. Ju-Haeon sat watching the program on his computer, casually taking a sip of beer. He was looking up information online, thinking to himself, this linguistic skill is so convenient. I can look up information in any language. Still, it wasn't enough to satisfy Ju-Haeon, and none of it seemed very useful. This was before the existence of relics became known to the world. He kept typing, telling himself he needed to find out what that bastard Kwan was planning. But he couldn't find any useful information about Chong-ram. Jong-hun came up behind his friend, peering curiously at the screen. You can actually read that. Ju-Haeon turned to look at him and admitted frankly, of course. Want me to read it for you? Nah, it's okay. I just didn't realize you were so skilled, Jong-hun said, shaking his head. Ju-Haeon then asked abruptly, Jong-hun, do you know anything new about Chong-ram? Jong-hun looked confused. No, why? Ju-Haeon explained, I just want to know the details about that company's CEO. Why do you need to know that? Jong-hun grew more curious. He scratched his head, muttering, is this for work? I don't know if I have anything for you, but a big company like that won't meet with a small one. I quit. Ju-Haeon's next statement surprised Jong-hun. What are you talking about? He demanded. Ju-Haeon didn't answer. Something on the computer screen had caught his eye. Jong-hun, standing next to him, asked anxiously, are you okay? You're like a completely different person. Why'd you quit? Hey, are you even listening? Ju-Haeon didn't seem to hear his focus entirely on mining for information. First, wait. Park Kyungju has an art exhibition. I'll use these guys to dig up info on that bastard Kwan. Time passed. Cut to a street outside. The sidewalk was quiet with only a few people walking by. Seong-woo rummaged through an office, grumbling in frustration. Damn it, they left nothing behind, one of his underlings asked. What do we do now, boss? He felt anxious. The boss got caught. We can't continue this line of work. We're officially unemployed now, Seong-yu replied indifferently. Yeah, I know. He pulled out a cigarette, muttering with a frown. This is all that bastard Seoju Haeon's fault. I'm not letting this slide. I'm going to kill him. Jang-suk immediately perked up and seized the opportunity to flatter him. That's our boss for you. We can't let him get away with this, Du-kyung enthusiastically agreed. Exactly, we have to get revenge for our seniors. Praised by his underlings, Seong-woo smirked smugly and struck a cool pose. Of course I'm Oh-seong-yu. I can't live without repaying the big boss. The person next to him chimed in cheerfully. A big brother everyone should look up to. Suddenly a phone started ringing incessantly. Trang-suk pointed it out. Someone's calling you. The moment Seong-yu saw the caller ID Seoju Hoon, he panicked. What the hell is this? He fumbled, not daring to answer the phone. Why is that bastard calling me at a time like this? Du-kyung's face paled as he confirmed. It really is Seoju Hoon. Trang-suk, who was beside him, urged, answer it, boss. After hesitating for a moment, Seong-woo finally hit the answer button and spoke timidly. Hello. On the other end of the line, Seoju Hoon's deep voice questioned him. What took you so long to answer? Seong-yu was pissed, but didn't dare say a word, only managing to curse under his breath. This bastard! The more he thought about it, the angrier he got, and he recklessly yelled into the phone. You ungrateful bastard! How dare you sell out our bosses? Seoju Hoon cut him off sharply. Shut up! He leaned back leisurely in his chair and asked with a smirk. You guys are still dealing in illegal goods, right? Seoju Hoon's tone held a threatening undertone. I know you all still haven't signed the contract termination agreement. Seong-yu snapped and yelled, So what do you want, you bastard? Because of you all, the top brass got arrested. All the artifacts were confiscated, too. Now we have no choice but to shut down the business. A sigh was heard from the other end. So you haven't shut down yet, Yu Hoon chuckled. That means you can still work, right? Perfect. I want you guys to go to Midas. Hearing this, the CEO asked stunned Midas. To give a brief introduction, Midas is the world's largest secret auction house located in Las Vegas. Many of the world's greatest treasures are gathered here. Yu Hoon thought to himself, I know that Kwon Tae-jun participated in auctions here and bought many powerful relics. Midas is the best place to acquire all kinds of relics. If I have people there, I can gather almost all the information related to that bastard Kwon Tae-jun. He ordered the people on the other end of the line. This month, find some items and the whereabouts of one person at the Midas auction for me. Yu Hoon added, the person you need to find is Jackman. From what I've gathered, Jackman is an alias that Brother Yoon often uses. Yu Hoon didn't forget to warn them, if you can't find him, report to me immediately. If you dare give me false information, don't blame me for being cruel. The CEO jumped up in anger. That's ridiculous. How are we supposed to get into Midas? We've only been able to operate until now thanks to the big boss's connections and skills. The other end of the line simply replied nonchalantly, that's for you to figure out. Yu Hoon put on his jacket and casually added, I'm not free. Like you guys, I have things to do. Consider what I just said a job. I'll pay you depending on the quality of the information. Hearing this, Seong-yu yelled, what did you just say? A series of shouting voices came through Yu Hoon's phone. No matter how much you pay me, I'll never listen to you. I told you, just ignore him. Where are you now? Yu Hoon replied. If you don't take the job, fine. I'll save some money, because one way or another you will go to Midas. He threatened in a cold voice, making Seong-yu shudder. It seems you didn't get beaten enough last time. If that's the case, I'll come over and give you another beating. I'll stop when you agree. Okay, sound good. He hastily spoke up. Wait. Yu Hoon heard the eager tone on the other end and raised an eyebrow with a smirk. I'll give you more details later. Just wait for my orders. He then hung up decisively and strolled towards the door. All right, Yu Hoon collected himself. The matter concerning Kwon Tae-jun has been dealt with. Time to hunt for some relics tonight. Night fell quickly. Outside, the streets were bustling with all kinds of vehicles. In front of a convenience store, a constant stream of people passed by, their faces illuminated by the streetlights. On the TV, a news anchor's voice announced today in the plaza area of Yeongdongpo District at around 3 a.m., a 40-year-old woman attempted to take her own life by digging a hole and jumping into it. The store clerk was engrossed in the report. According to witnesses, Yu Hoon happened to overhear and thought to himself, I wonder if that incident is a sign of the next tomb's appearance. He had barely formed the thought before dismissing it himself. It's probably unrelated. An annoyed voice cut through Yu Hoon's thoughts. Are you done yet? How long are you going to stand there? This spot is pretty narrow, I can't get through. The person who spoke was Kiyoshi. He snapped irritably, what, you don't understand because I'm speaking a foreign language. But whatever. He can probably see how pissed I am. Move it, Yu Hoon was stunned as soon as he got a clear look at the person in front of him. That bastard, why is he here? This is the bastard from the Tomb of the Golden and Silver Axes. He didn't bother to answer, lowering his gaze and thinking, I get it. Yu Hoon's suspicion was confirmed. If this bastard is here, it means a new tomb is about to appear in this area. Seeing that he wasn't reacting, Kiyoshi scowled and gritted his teeth. Hey, get out of the way. As far as Yu Hoen knew, there was someone in Japan at this time who possessed a prophecy relic to help them. He suddenly cut in, "Shut up, you're being too loud." "You think I don't understand what you're saying?" Kiyoshi was momentarily surprised to hear a familiar language. Japanese. He immediately changed his attitude, forcing a smile and apologizing. "You're Japanese too. Sorry for my rude behavior just now. I've had a terrible day today." Ju Heian enjoyed the scene before him, inwardly gloating. The linguistic skill is pretty handy. When he felt he had teased the other guy enough, Ju Heian switched to his native language. "Sorry, what did you say? I only speak Korean." Kiyoshi was taken aback and questioned loudly. "Huh, was that Korean just now?" "So you're Korean. Why did you trick me?" Ju Heian casually hummed a tune, deliberately provoking him. "Well, you started it, idiot!" Kiyoshi yelled in anger. "This bastard, what did you say? Are you mocking me?" He followed Ju Heian to the checkout counter, puffing out his chest to intimidate him. "Do you know who I am?" The clerk watched this scene, nervously ringing up the purchase. "That'll be 2,901. Ju Heian glanced at the man behind him. Anyway, he thought to himself, this bastard has a relic with him. He's not even trying to hide its power. What an amateur. Ju Heian walked while shaking the can of soda in his hand. "I don't know what kind of relic it is, but I want it." Kiyoshi rolled up his sleeves and chased after him. "Stop right there! Get back here!" He grabbed Ju Heian's shoulder. "When someone's talking to you, you're supposed to listen, aren't you?" Without a word, he opened the soda can. Foam sprayed all over Kiyoshi's face. His hair and face were soaked. He wiped the liquid off and growled. "What the hell?" Ju Heian put on an innocent face and said profusely. "Sorry. Oh no, I'm so sorry." He smiled, pretending to want to help the other man. "Everyone does that. I don't know why they do it, though." Kiyoshi yelled in frustration. "It's all over my clothes, you bastard! You're paying my laundry bill!" Ju Heian took advantage of the close contact to sneak his hand into the man's pocket. He mentally calculated. "It's a bracelet and a small-type relic. If I steal it now, I'll be caught immediately." Ju Heian smiled and suggested, "Hey, let's just drop it. I don't have any money on me. Besides, those clothes don't look that expensive." Before Kiyoshi could explode, Ju Heian bent down to distract him. "You dropped something." He picked up a card and held it in front of the man. "Shouldn't you be more careful with your ID card?" The moment Kiyoshi saw it, he hastily snatched the card from Ju Heian's hand. "Give it here." He narrowed his eyes, feeling uneasy. "He didn't see my ID, did he?" If word got out that a member of the Japanese excavation team was here, things would get very complicated. But he's just a civilian, so I probably have nothing to worry about. Just then, a tremor occurred, startling them both. The surrounding crowd immediately started murmuring, "What was that? What the hell was that, an earthquake?" The tremors grew more and more intense. Many people lost their balance and fell to the ground. Ju Heian suddenly felt a thrill of excitement. "Bingo! I was waiting for the tomb to appear." He quickly left. Kiyoshi was still standing there laughing heartily. "This is pure chaos. Everything is happening exactly as the prophecy foretold." He made a phone call to report the situation. "Sorry, the tomb has appeared." The person on the other end replied, "I understand. There's something else you need to know." The news from the other end struck Kiyoshi like a lightning bolt. "We just received another prophecy. It says that a Korean who took the gold and silver axes is nearby. This part of the prophecy isn't very reliable." The person on the other end kindly added, "But you should be careful, don't drink any alcohol." Kiyoshi's mind immediately went to his accidental encounter with Ju Heian. Suspicion immediately arose, that bastard from earlier. If that were the case, even he found it hard to believe. Clutching the phone in his hand, is that bastard the one mentioned in the prophecy? Kiyoshi looked around for him, cursing under his breath. "Damn it, he's gone." The person on the other end called out in confusion. He quickly ran off, explaining, "I'm going to find him. Let me know if there are any more prophecies." Ju Heian looked around and asked, "Why does it feel like someone here is bloodthirsty?" He muttered doubtfully, "This is completely different from the last tomb. It seems this artifact will be hard to tame." Suddenly, Ju Heian was startled by a loud shout. "Hey, you!" Kiyoshi aimed a gun at him and yelled, "Stop right there. Don't move if you don't want to get shot." Ju Heian sighed helplessly. "You again." He urged loudly, "Open your backpack now." Kiyoshi, his face full of impatience, shouted, "How long are you going to ignore me?" He sensed the energy around him and yelled, "What the hell is going on?" A system screen appeared in front of Ju Heian, warning, "You have detected a terrifying pressure approaching." Cracks appeared under their feet from which a shimmering golden light emanated. Startled, Ju Heian gritted his teeth and used his hand to shield his eyes from the blinding light coming from the ground. That stream of golden light quickly shot up high, illuminating the entire city. Immediately after, a desolate ruined structure with broken weapons stuck all over it appeared before them. The people in the square slowly got up, looked up at the scene before them, and cried out in astonishment, "What is this?" The person next to Ju-hyun immediately asked with concern, "What is all this?" "Get up!" He held his head and groaned, "Damn it, my head! Are you okay?" Ju-hyun turned to look at the crowd around him, thinking worriedly, "A lot of civilians have been dragged into this mess. The artifacts put everyone in danger because of them. Those bastards!" He clutched his chest, looking at the pile of weapons before him and analyzing a tomb full of broken weapons. "I've been here before in my past life. This is the tomb of the Japanese katana artifact Muramasa." The legend of this place came to Ju-hyun's mind. Muramasa was a famous swordsmith in Japan during the Muromachi period, the founder of the Muramasa school. The swords forged by the Muramasa school were very famous and considered masterpieces. During that time, their relationship with Shogun Tokugawa Ieyasu was not very good. Muramasa's father and brothers were all killed by the very katanas he had forged. Because of that incident, Tokugawa ordered all of Muramasa's swords to be destroyed, and it was rumored that all Muramasa swords were cursed katanas. Yu-hyun looked at the system screen and mused, "So this is the kind of artifact we're up against. This artifact holds a lot of resentment towards humans." Immediately after a warning sound blared, "The artifact's bloodlust is clinging to your body. Your skin is being damaged. You need to protect your body." Yu-hyun frowned, watching a flash of purple light enter his body. He looked at the wound on his hand and whispered softly to himself, "So it's already started. I have to clear this tomb quickly." When Kiyoshi appeared behind him, Yu-hyun gave a cold smile and reminded him, "I told you not to move." He pointed the gun at him and ordered, "Open the bag, empty everything out." Seeing this, Yu-hyun cursed inwardly, "This bastard is persistent." Then he retorted loudly, "This is a robbery, you know. Why should I listen to you?" Hearing that, Kiyoshi cried out in disbelief. He gave a cold laugh and threatened loudly, "You tired of living? Stop messing around if you don't want me to pull the trigger." Yu-hyun raised both hands, casually urging him, "Then shoot me." Kiyoshi gritted his teeth, making a curious sound as he heard him continue, "But I advise you not to. It's useless." He lowered the gun to his leg and shouted, "You bastard! You'll regret it if you think I'm just kidding. I'll shoot you in the leg to make you understand your situation right now." Seeing that Yu-hyun still wouldn't comply, Kiyoshi shouted in fury, "Fine, if that's what you want." But the gun suddenly exploded. He clutched his hand and screamed in pain. The young man next to him laughed mockingly. "See, what did I tell you?" Yu-hyun grabbed Kiyoshi by the collar and declared, "That artifact is mine now, so don't even dream about it." He grabbed his hand back and demanded, "What did you do?" "Let go of me!" Kiyoshi was pulled by a strong force. Yu-hyun's voice rang out, "You're in my way, so get lost!" He gritted his teeth and threw him hard to the ground. With his hands in his pockets, Yu-hyun calmly pointed out, "When you enter a tomb, all modern weapons become useless because the artifacts don't want humans to clear the tomb easily." Kiyoshi immediately stood up. He stared at him and yelled, "How do you know that? The one who took the gold and silver axes, it was definitely you." He grabbed Kiyoshi's collar, pulled him close, and coldly admitted, "That's right." As ghosts began to cling to him, he jumped and screamed, "What the hell is this?" Du Huang turned to look back and warned, "Just stay put, you idiot. Let me tell you that traps here are a real pain in the ass, too." Seeing him run off, Kiyoshi shouted to stop him, "Wait, you bastard!" He was pulled back by the mob, gritting his teeth and yelling, "I have to kill that guy to be satisfied!" Kiyoshi looked in the crowd in front of him and greeted them, "Hello, everyone. Everything is under control, so there's no need to worry." The crowd immediately started whispering, "You, that looks gross." "What is he saying? What the hell is that?" He had no choice but to add, "Does anyone here speak Japanese?" Someone stepped forward and replied, "I know a little." Kiyoshi asked, "Then could you give me a hand?" Immediately after, the voice rang out, stopping them. "Wait, everyone." Another person pointed at him and shouted, "He has a gun!" Someone else disagreed. "What if he's dangerous?" The other person disagreed with that, replying, "But that doesn't mean we can just leave him like this." Kiyoshi, covered in a cold sweat, and with monsters tightening their grip on his neck from behind, gave a strained smile and repeated, "Hello." He tried to hold up a card to introduce himself. "Please believe me. I'm from the Japanese excavation team. I've been trained to handle situations like this." The crowd was startled and became hesitant. Kiyoshi promised, "I swear I'll get everyone out of here safely." Just then, a pair of feet could be seen approaching from a distance. Du Huang held an item of Kiyoshi's, smiling as he looked inside it. "All right, let's see what kind of artifact this guy brought." He thought back to the earlier scene. When I threw him, I managed to slip my hand into his pocket. The bastard tried to confront me without knowing anything about the tomb. Du Huang carefully examined the two items in his hand. It was a bracelet and a small box of rice cakes. He stared at the bracelet and whispered, "This artifact is from a Korean folktale. The two siblings who became the sun and the moon. The story of the tiger who killed the mother for more rice cakes and was about to kill the two siblings when a rope came down from heaven to save them appeared in Ju Hyun's mind." He looked at the system screens that appeared, noting that these artifacts weren't the best, but were quite useful, and decided to put them away for now. A notification appeared on the screen, Petty Pickpocket. You have unlocked a new title and discovered a new skill. You have awakened the basic Tomb Raider skill, Nimble Fingers F rank. Ju Hyun looked at the system screen and exclaimed, "I got a skill. So now I have all 4 basic skills." A notification immediately appeared on the screen, Nimble Fingers S rank. By simply touching an item once you can learn how to use it. When using consumable artifacts, the artifact's erosion rate is significantly reduced. Your ability to repair artifacts is increased. High success rate when stealing artifacts from others. Basic Tomb Raider skill 4/4 Reconnaissance F rank allows you to observe within a 1m radius of yourself. Linguistics F rank grants you a better understanding of all types of languages. Tomb Excavation F rank enhances understanding of tombs. Nimble Fingers F rank, your fingers become more dexterous. Ju Hyun looked up startled as a purple beam of light shone down from above. The screen read, "You have successfully awakened 4 skills hidden deep within your body. You are now an official Tomb Raider. Mission complete. You will receive your reward after leaving the tomb." Hearing this, he immediately exclaimed, "There's a reward too." Ju Hyun let out a cold sneer and continued, "That crow. Oh, it's treating me like some kind of game character." He waved a hand at the screen, shouting, "Whatever. Keep playing your games with me. I'll still take the reward so I'm not complaining." Suddenly, a piercing scream from behind made Ju Hyun jump and look over. Noisy sounds echoed from outside. "Back off. Don't come near me, help." He looked over, wondering what was going on. Ju Hyun looked down below and whispered, "The sound is coming from down here." Suddenly, his eyes widened in shock. The people below were trying to stop a student holding a knife. "Student, stop." "Get out of the way," Ju Hyun thought in shock. "It's a trap." Seeing the female student with the knife radiating a bloody aura, the crowd screamed in fear, "Someone please stop her!" "Hey, student, calm down!" Someone noticed her blank white eyes and shouted, "I think she's lost consciousness." Ju Hyun looked down from above, frowning as he concluded she was being possessed. Anyone who touches that knife will be possessed. He thought to himself, once someone is possessed by that knife, it's very difficult for them to break free. Ultimately, everyone will die. That's the nature of this trap. Ju Hyun looked at the nearby bridge, realizing that the more people died in that pit, the more the bridge would be developed. It's a sacrificial trap. He looked down and shouted to the people inside, "Hey, who brought you guys into this pit? Was it some Japanese guy?" Someone from below quickly shouted back, "Yes, it was him. He sang some weird songs and then got out of here. After we pulled him out, this is what happened." The man's voice added, "He said we all needed to die to protect the secret." Hearing this, Ju Hyun cursed angrily, "That bastard!" He slowly slid down the slope into the pit, thinking perhaps that's what the Prophet's Relic user told him to do. Seeing Ju Hyun slide down, the crowd shouted a warning, "Be careful. There are a lot of blades on the walls." Immediately after, a sharp dagger appeared in his hand. With 2 slashes, blade fragments flew up into the air. Ju Hyun landed gently on the ground as the blade fragments fell beside him. The female student immediately gritted her teeth and turned to stare at him. Seeing her turn and lunge towards Ju Hyun, the crowd shouted in shock, "What?" "She's heading for that guy." He gripped the bracelet, muttering, "I'll use this." Ju Hyun threw the bracelet out, shouting, "Bind her." The bracelet immediately grew, stretching towards the female student. The rope quickly wrapped around her, preventing her from raising the knife to stab him. Ju Hyun watched as she fell to the ground, tightly bound, and couldn't help but remark, "How convenient." He gripped the sword in his hand and calmly promised, "Just stay put. I'll save you now." After a moment, a frantic voice emanated from the knife. "Who the hell are you?" "But that doesn't really matter. Now go kill them, kill all the humans." Ju Hyun's expression soured as he narrowed his eyes and questioned, "How dare a piece of shit relic like you tell me what to do?" The voice shouted, startled, "What?" He glanced at the knife and sneered, "A C-rank relic. It's not even a proper relic." "What a piece of junk." Ju Hyun forcefully threw the knife behind him. "What a useless relic. Where's the boss of this tomb?" The female student, still bound by the rope, pleaded agitatedly, "Please untie me." The knife kept taunting, "Hey human, come play with me." Hearing that, he silently cursed the lunatic. Ju Hyun raised his hand to recall the rope. "Hey, rope, come back." He turned to the people behind him and shouted, "Everyone follow me. I'll get you all out of here. Don't ask me any questions. I'm not a bad guy." Meanwhile, in an area filled with swords, a loud laugh echoed, "I'm a genius. Kiyoshi looked at his hands and laughed maniacally. I've eliminated all the troublesome witnesses. And I've also found the Relic's chamber, the Muramasa. He looked at the swords around him and muttered, Now I just need to find the Muramasa. Then I can get out of this damn country. Kiyoshi grabbed a sword and growled, That bastard took my artifact. Just you wait, I'll make you suffer. Swords were continuously tossed to the ground, scattering everywhere. His face contorted with anger as he flung a sword away, shouting, They're all fakes! The Muramasa, where is it? Suddenly a shout came from behind. We found him! Kiyoshi turned to look. The people, their faces filled with rage, roared, How dare you trap us here, you bastard! He exclaimed in shock. Huh! As the crowd grabbed him by the collar, Kiyoshi cried out in disbelief, How the hell did you guys escape? The crowd cursed loudly. This son of a bitch, they started kicking him hard, shouting, Beat him up! A pair of sneakers ran into Kiyoshi's line of sight. Juhyun's voice rang out, Damn, you're pathetic. His face covered in wounds, he glared at Juhyun and snarled through gritted teeth, You son of a bitch! It was definitely you! With a wide grin, Juhyun replied, holding the axe in his hand. Of course. Who else could it be? I can't believe you couldn't identify the artifact even though you got here first. You're a real idiot! He raised the golden axe, glanced at it, and commanded, Locate it, golden axe. Immediately, Juhyun turned with a start to look at the Muramasa radiating a purple light nearby and exclaimed, Are you kidding me? The relic was right in front of you this whole time! Kiyoshi's startled voice rang out, unbelievable. He watched Juhyun lift the sword and shouted in amazement, A broken sword like this is the Muramasa! Juhyun held the Muramasa forward and explained with a cold laugh, That's because it only reveals its true form once activated. The sword's voice rang out, Another human trying to dominate me. Such a foolish human, my body has been weathered and broken. Its body radiated an enchanting blue light. If you wish to use my power, you must sacrifice 10 people. I need human blood to restore my original state. If you can't do that, then you can be buried here forever with the rest of them. Kiyoshi frowned at Juhyun and muttered under his breath. Is someone talking to him? No way. The people behind them, their faces filled with fear, cried out, Does that mean 10 of us really have to die? No. Juhyun heard them and fell silent. His face pensive, he looked over at the crowd. He raised the Muramasa, glowing purple in his hand, and said in a low voice, Relics, are you weapons always like this? Are you testing me? Its voice rang out in reply. That's right. What are you waiting for? Hurry and sacrifice 10 humans to me? Juhyun's eyes narrowed, becoming incredibly sharp. He refused coldly, I refuse. He poured all his strength into his hands, tightening his grip on the sword. With a fierce expression, Juhyun channeled red energy into the sword and shouted, Why should I do that when I can just dominate you? The Muramasa roared in horror. What are you doing? It hurts. The people looked up as the cliff face continued to crumble. He yelled, The one being tested here isn't me, it's you. If you don't submit to me, I'll shatter you into 100 pieces. Juhyun frowned, staring intently at it with a serious expression as he urged, Obey my command, Muramasa. The Muramasa trembled and struggled, screaming incessantly, Damn you! Damn it! It radiated a red light as he held it high, shrieking in indignation. How dare a mere mortal do this to me? The people nearby were blinded by the dazzling light and couldn't help but raise their hands to shield their eyes. After a while, the dust and smoke cleared. Juhyun stood tall, holding the Muramasa, which was glowing with a blue light. Gripping the sword tightly, he calmly declared the tomb cleared. Immediately after, Juhyun stood by the cliff, grabbed one end of a rope, and said to the crowd, Climb this rope. Everyone will get out of here safely. The crowd rushed towards him at once, thanking him, Thank you so much. Juhyun placed a hand on Kiyoshi's shoulder, pulling him back and saying coldly, Don't try to blend into the crowd like that. He frowned at him and questioned, Are you planning to kill them all once you get out? Kiyoshi immediately turned around and denied it. No, I promise I won't. Please just let me get out of here. The whites of his eyes showing, he kept promising, If I get out of here, I'll recommend you for a job with my government. You could earn 10 billion yen working for the Japanese excavation team. Yu Hoen smiled faintly as Kiyoshi explained. We also possess a prophetic relic that shows the future. You can use that relic to make your life easier. What do you say? He suddenly froze, his face going blank as the young man let out a whispered laugh. Interesting. Yu Hoen crossed his arms and asked with a smile. From what I know, the relic that shows the future can only be used by its true owner. How do you expect me to use it? Kiyoshi held out his hands and answered. There's a team that maintains the relic. They'll be sure to help you as much as possible. He pointed a finger at him and replied with a smile. Interesting, very interesting. All right. You can use the rope, but you have to be the last one to climb. Hearing this, Kiyoshi couldn't help but smirk smugly, a contemptuous smile forming as he thought he was saved. What a commoner blinded by the sound of 10 billion yen. He grabbed the rope and followed behind Yu Hoen, continuously trying to entice him. I apologize for my earlier actions. People with your skills are always welcome on my team. He feigned interest, glanced down below, and said, Elaborate. I want to know more about the Japanese team that's using that prophetic relic. If they're an untrustworthy group, I don't want to work with them. Hearing that, Kiyoshi laughed and replied, You don't have to worry about that. Yu Hoen's eyes narrowed, half his face falling into shadow as he heard the man add, It's the famous Azure Dragon Group. He immediately gritted his teeth, the corner of his mouth twitching into a fierce grin as he asked in a low voice, Is that so? Kiyoshi slowly reached his hand forward, his fingers curling slightly as if about to grab something. Suddenly, he let out a shocked cry of pain as Yu Hoen kicked him hard in the chest. Kiyoshi suddenly let go and fell asking in disbelief as he plummeted. What, wait, my leg? He clutched his broken leg. With a vicious look on his face, Yu Hoen's voice rang out, Thanks for the information. I guess you were so desperate to live you coughed up all the important info. His voice dripped with contempt. Who'd want to work with a piece of trash like you? Makiyoshi's eyes widened as he screamed, No, wait! He reached upwards, begging loudly, Are you really going to murder someone in cold blood like this? Help! At night, the lights inside the local shops were still shining brightly. Outside the men's restroom, he thought to himself, Let's see. From behind him, a constant screaming rang out. Let me go, you bastard! He closed his eyes helplessly, listening to the Muramasa's constant threats. I'll kill you. Yu Hoen approached, yanked open the zipper of his bag, and demanded, You bastards! You're the ones who need to shut your mouths. Who caused this? The cursing from inside continued non-stop, you son of a bitch. How dare you do this, you bastard? He held up the Muramasa and asked through gritted teeth, Was it you? Held up like that, the Muramasa cried out in alarm. What? Leave me alone, you bastard. Yu Hoen forcefully threw it into the toilet bowl, yelling angrily, Shut up. He frowned, looking down from above, and said coldly, Enjoy the nutritious toilet water. The Muramasa screamed, You son of a bitch. After that, Yu Hoen walked out and closed the restroom door. Wincing in pain, he pulled up his sleeve to reveal his corroded arm, cursing under his breath. Damn it. This is all because of that thing. It was the consequence of his dominance ability. Normally, to obtain a relic, one must pass its trial, but by ignoring this rule, Yu Hoen had taken damage while trying to dominate them. The stronger the relic, the greater its resistance. If he continued down this path, his body wouldn't be able to hold out for much longer. Yu Hoen glanced towards the Muramasa inside the restroom and whispered, But I really have no other choice. If I don't dominate these relics, they'll just end up betraying me anyway. Just then, a system screen suddenly appeared in front of him. A notification appeared on it. You have escaped the dungeon, unlocking basic skills for dungeon conquerors. You will now receive a reward for completing this mission. Immediately after, another notification popped up. The screen displayed the words, These are the reward choices for this mission. Choose wisely, path of dominance, path of blessing. Dewey looked at it and asked in confusion, What is this? He glanced at the screen and asked, Are you telling me to choose the one I use the most? The crow, this is some kind of test, isn't it? He looked at his corroded hand and said, Just because my hand is in this state doesn't mean I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I choose the path of dominance. Immediately after he slowly clenched his fist, his mind made up. A notification immediately appeared. You have successfully received the mission reward. A confused look spread across Doohee's face as nothing else happened. He looked all around, wondering to himself, what the hell? Why isn't anything different? Shouldn't there be some kind of prize box in a situation like this? If you're going to have a game-like interface, you should at least do it properly, right? As Doohee reached into his pocket, he suddenly paused, letting out a confused sound. He looked at the silver pill in his hand and said, A silver pill. It's a relic in the form of a silver pill since it has a system interface here. Doohee frowned, staring at it and mumbling, It says it's a type of food that can be used immediately. Should I eat it? He stared at it, muttering to himself, Well, I have nothing to lose. If I die after eating this, I guess it's just my fate. Then Doohee tossed the silver pill into his mouth. He used some paper to lift the Muramasa out of the toilet, saying, All right, get out of there, let's go home. It screamed in rage, I'll kill you, you bastard! He sighed and lamented, This smell is awful. I regret shoving you in there. Suddenly, Doohee's eyes squeezed shut, his face contorting in discomfort. The sword slipped from his grasp and fell to the floor. He screamed in pain as the pill began to take effect, though he grimaced, cracking one eye open to look down at the wound on his arm. He watched as his arm returned to normal and exclaimed, The wound on my arm is healing. Is it a healing relic? Doohee grabbed his injured arm and said with a laugh, Healing relics are extremely rare and valuable. Then he was startled as a system screen suddenly appeared. The text on it read, You have endured the relic's poison and have fully recovered from your wounds. You have acquired the skill immunity endurance. Seeing those words, Dewey cried out in shock. Endurance! This is the first time I've ever seen a skill like this. His eyes widened as he exclaimed, wait, could this be a unique skill created just for me? The sound of a news report came on. Tonight, in Yeongdongpo District, Seoul, a major earthquake occurred. An architectural structure has appeared at the epicenter. This mysterious structure has caused 50 people to become trapped inside. According to witnesses, there are many dangerous booby traps inside. One of the people inside, Kim Do from Gyeonggi-do province, even attempted to harm the others. The man claimed to be part of a Japanese excavation team. Therefore, our government has contacted the Japanese government and is awaiting their response. On the other hand, due to this incident, the Chinese and Russian governments are also demanding an answer from the Japanese government regarding their responsibility for this action. The U.S. government is officially declaring. Someone reached out and turned off the TV, cursing under their breath. That bastard. In the Japanese excavation team's government meeting room, a group of people questioned loudly, "What the hell have you done?" Their faces were fierce as they yelled, "Now the mass media is blabbing on and on about the relics and the tomb." Not only that this is a huge disgrace for Japan, the sounds of criticism continued unabated. The bastard who caused this also lost his life? Death is not enough for someone like him. Mori bowed his head repeatedly, apologizing. "I am truly sorry." Mori Hiroyuki, the commander of the Japanese excavation team, replied with a look of resignation. "We just received a prophecy from South Korea." Hearing that, the group questioned loudly, "Who said you had the authority to handle matters related to the prophecy?" He raised his hand, trying to buy time. "We did our best, it's just that there were many difficult issues surrounding this matter." Mori, with a bright smile, held out both hands and added, "But things are different now. We can use the future guidance relic to find his location." Hearing that, a voice asked in return, "Didn't you say the user of that prophecy relic needs certain conditions to determine a location?" He thought of Ju-hyun in his head and replied, "We can do it because he has contacted his people. Although it's not complete yet, we can pinpoint his location." Mori held out his hands and shouted excitedly, "Scholars who don't use future guidance are looking for a way for non-owners to be able to use it. The Azure Dragon Group is spending a lot of time and money to complete this research." Finally, the two of them agreed. "All right, we'll give you a chance." He immediately smiled brightly and replied, "Thank you, sirs. I promise we will do our best." During the day inside an apartment building, a mumbling sound was heard to eliminate that Korean guy. Ju-hyun lay on his bed looking at his hand and wondering, "Endurance, huh? If it can withstand the relic's poison, that would be amazing." His eyes stared at it deep in thought. All relic users have to endure side effects. In my past life, everyone had entered the era of searching for relics. Healing was the #1 priority. Thinking of this, Ju-hyun suddenly sat up, wondering, if it's really as described, then it's an amazing ability just for me. "Is this all because of that crow relic?" He turned his head to look out the window and yelled, "What kind of trick are you trying to pull, Crow? What do you gain from giving me these things?" Ju-hyun heard no reply and urged angrily, "Answer me! You're so good at talking, always using those shiny windows to talk to me. Speak up." He stared intently in that direction, but there was still no reply. Seeing this, Ju-hyun couldn't help but let out a small laugh and cursed loudly, "Damn it." He lowered his head as his phone rang and said, "A phone call. Oh, it's Seung-woo." Ju-hyun smiled as he answered the phone, asking, "What's up?" The guy on the other end immediately shouted, "What did you say?" Forget it." Seung-woo in Las Vegas thought for a moment, then calmly continued, "We've checked the list of participants for this auction." He heard this and asked curtly, "And?" Over here, Ju-hyun sat on his bed, lost in thought as he heard the news. "There are 3 people with the name Juka." He slowly stood up and said, "Looks like I'll have to go check it out myself." Hearing this, Seung-woo on the other end yelled, "You're planning to come here." Just then, a notification sound rang out. "You have been marked by the Vane's relic. Your future can now be exposed." Ju-hyun looked at the screen in front of him and sighed to himself. "It's future guidance, huh? This is going to be annoying." On the other side, Seung-woo noticed his silence and called out loudly, "Hello? What's wrong, Ju-hyun?" Ju-hyun gave a faint smile and instructed him, "I'm coming to you guys, but not right away. I have a place I need to visit first." A book suddenly appeared. It floated in midair with a specific purpose. Future Guidance of Prince Shotoku. Prince Shotoku was a politician and regent during the Asuka period, and Future Guidance is the prophetic scripture he wrote. Although there is no proof of its existence, this ancient book is considered a legendary item. The back of a blonde girl could be seen walking slowly through the crowd ahead. But it seems to be the first relic to have integrated itself into human society. Her feet suddenly stopped. Below her, the dirty book from before was blocking her path. Instead of creating a tomb, it chose its own master. Out of curiosity, Juka quickly reached out and picked up the book with a bewildered expression. "What is this? It's all dirty." She quickly put it back where she found it and ran straight ahead. Sasaki Juka. She was the one chosen by future guidance to be its master. However, the book followed her all the way to her study desk. This annoyance angered Juka. From then on, future guidance always followed her wherever she went. Then, when she went to the library, the book caught her eye again as she looked straight at the bookshelf in front of her. Even though she tore it, burned it, and threw it away, it always reappeared before her. That terrified Sasaki. Juka's hand gripped the book tightly as she looked up at the person opposite her with a frightened gaze. However, the Japanese government soon learned about Sasaki's future guidance and made an offer to help her use it for the Japanese excavation team. A happy family portrait of Juka's family was placed neatly on a small table. Because of that, Sasaki's family escaped their difficult life and began to enjoy prosperity with the help of future guidance. The Japanese excavation team collected countless relics. It seemed like everything was going smoothly because of that little girl Sasaki, but not for much longer. She sat pointing at the book on the table, her face covered in sweat from anxiety. Because Sasaki had dropped out of school to use future guidance for the government, she couldn't understand the true meaning when difficult kanji appeared and couldn't fully utilize future guidance's power. Then came a relic user who could read the future, surpassing her skills. An arm raised in the darkness, blood splattered everywhere, leading to her death. Back to the morning at a building with white glass doors leading into an airport departure lounge. At first, I was going to ignore that prophecy relic since she was going to die and disappear anyway. Incheon International Airport. But now that they dare to track my location, everything changes. Then, sitting on a waiting bench, Joo-hyun looked around, his head full of thoughts. Not only that, they're also colluding with that bastard Kwon. They won't get away with this. I'm going to ruin their plans. Not far away in a high-rise building, her name was being called out. Sasaki-chan Juka was sitting comfortably on the couch watching her favorite show. The show made her hug a pillow tightly, her face blushing and her mouth smiling with delight. Shusuke-san is not only handsome, but he also sings very well. Suddenly from behind, Shusuke peeked out from behind a wall to remind Juka. "Sasaki-chan, it's time to read the future guidance relic." Seeing him, she glanced over annoyed. Now it was just getting to the good part. Shusuke chuckled awkwardly and quickly reminded her, "This is the 4th time you've watched that show." Juka walked out of the room muttering complaints about Shusuke. "So what if it's 4 times I still think it's good?" This made him scratch his head and laugh sheepishly. "I'm sorry." Nearby, the company receptionist greeted her. "Welcome back, Sasaki-chan. According to the schedule..." Juka pulled out a chair and sat down properly at the table to prepare. "I always have to read and translate these difficult kanji." A reassuring voice came from outside. "If there are any characters you don't understand, just draw them and show them to everyone." Standing behind her, Shusuke and the receptionist jumped, startled by something that was happening. Juka darted from the table and hugged the receptionist, trembling. "What's wrong?" she asked, her body shaking with fear. "It says I'm going to die. This time it's written very clearly. I'm going to be killed." The book lay wide open, the characters on the page glowing. "What is going on?" Sitting in her chair, Juka looked up, her eyes filled with certainty. It must be because of that Korean guy Kyoshi-han also lost his life because of him. Seeing Juka's distress, the receptionist placed a hand on her shoulder from behind and tried to calm her down. "Sasaki-chan, calm down. Did you see any other prophecies besides that one? You have the power to see the future, Sasaki-chan. You don't have to worry, look again." Comforted, Juka managed to calm down a little. "That's right. If that guy is planning to kill me, there will be more prophecies about it." With fear still on her face, she leaned over to look at the book. Cheers erupted around her. "You can see the future." Zuka's eyes widened. She had regained the courage to face that book. "That's right, I can't lose to him." A flight information board appeared. "Time and location of Flight Haneda Airport. All units, this is an emergency." A pair of feet walked forward. Beside them, a suitcase was dragged along without pause. "A Korean relic user has arrived in Japan." In the quiet space, the conversation continued unabated. "Should we apprehend him at the airport? Just let him go. We'll continue to monitor him through future guidance." At the airport gate, the figure of Do-hoen, suitcase in hand and a bag over his shoulder, moved forward. "I thought future guidance couldn't locate him." "It's fine, it only needs to tell us his next move." A military commander gestured to his soldiers. "This is our chance to take care of this problem. We'll make the first move." The order was executed in an instant. "Yes, sir." In a small restaurant, an eye-catching piece of thinly sliced salmon sushi sat on a table. Without hesitation, Do-hoen picked up the sushi with his chopsticks and popped it into his mouth. Sushi from a Japanese chef is amazing. Chewing with relish, he placed his chopsticks back on the tray. Anyway, when are those guys planning to attack me? A notebook's pages were filled with lines about Zuka's death. If I keep threatening her life like this, they're bound to show up. Pen in hand, Du-hoon smiled as he wrote without stopping. The future diary will definitely tell Sasaki Zuka about the curse I'm writing for her. That relic is sure to notice. A knock on the door made him glance over his face, showing clear annoyance. Since that relic can't pinpoint my exact location, I'll take my time with this plan. Looking toward the door, Du-hoon's eyes were void of emotion but filled with certainty. The Japanese soldiers must be here. Outside, pressed against the door, a soldier held his gun at the ready. He gestured for silence. Opposite him, a disguised chef was panicking. "Excuse me." He looked at Zuka, who was holding a food tray. "Sasaki-chan, are you ready?" She looked confused and hesitated to move forward. Wait, this is ridiculous. Being the straightforward person she was, Zuka stood her ground and asked, "That person is trying to kill me. Why do I have to go in there?" He covered his mouth and whispered gently, "You just need to look him in the eye through the crack in the door." A clear image of Du-hoon's face flashed before her. "That's how you'll be able to track him. We'll find out everything about him then." Looking at his silhouette, Zuka felt anxious and afraid, but her feet still moved forward. "He doesn't even know what you look like." "That's right." She slowly approached the door, preparing to go inside and meet him. Someone by the door whispered, "If things get hairy, we're all right here." "That's right, I can get through this." Without hesitating, Zuka reached out and opened a crack in the door to enter. They say the ability to see the future is the most powerful one. Her eyes wide, she pressed her lips together and peered deep through the crack in the door. "I have the advantage. He doesn't even know what I look like." Inside the room, Du-hoon smirked upon hearing her voice. "Here's your order." In an instant, he turned to face the door. "What a romantic lead, he's so handsome." Seeing his face, Zuka lightly covered her mouth, her expression a mix of shyness and astonishment. "He's even more handsome than Sosuke-san." She quickly placed the plate of sushi on the table in front of Du-hoon. Zuka's mind was reeling. "Oh my god, are they really going to kill him?" As she set down the sushi, she mumbled and lowered her head, not daring to look him in the eye. "What a waste," Du-hoon gave Zuka a friendly smile. "Thank you. And you know what?" Her face flushed red and her eyes filled with joy as she nodded. This was the user of the future guidance relic. His hand moved slightly, touching the hilt of a sword on the floor hidden under a black cloth. "She came to me all on her own." Outside, watching the surveillance monitor, the soldiers panicked. "That bastard is drawing his weapon." Another soldier immediately reported on his radio Sasaki-chan is in danger. Hiding by the door, the armed soldier gritted his teeth in frustration. "What is that girl doing? Why didn't she retreat right after getting a look at him? I don't get what she's thinking." The door was pulled shut, leaving no gap. Standing outside, the two men looked at each other, bewildered, not understanding what was happening. It turned out that the one who pulled the door shut was Zuka. Her action took Ju-hyun by surprise. With that done, she turned back to him, her eyes sparkling and a smile she couldn't contain. "Oppa, can I be your fan? Be your—" Zuka's actions left Ju-hyun staring blankly, completely baffled. She squeezed her eyes shut and bowed her head slightly, her face blushing as she asked, "Oh right, you're not famous, are you?" On the surveillance monitor, the soldiers were in a frenzy. "Why did she close the door? Wait, look at that." Seeing Zuka kneel on the floor near Ju-hyun, they guessed that she was talking to him. "She must be trying to get information. Are you sure? Confirm with Captain Mori." Regaining his composure, he stammered, asking her again, "What did you say?" Zuka held up a hand, cutting Ju-hyun off. She took out her phone and typed furiously, "I just want to talk with you for a bit." "You don't understand what I'm saying, huh?" The pink phone was thrust in his face. A line of text in English on the screen met Ju-hyun's eyes. Looking at the words, he gritted his teeth and broke into a sweat. "What the hell did she write?" He looked directly at Zuka, who was gazing up at him with sparkling eyes and rosy cheeks. "I know what she's trying to say, but what's wrong with her? Does she realize she's in danger right now?" Holding her phone, he smirked. "Whatever. This is the perfect opportunity for me." After a moment, Ju-hyun turned the phone screen back toward Zuka. Seeing the screen, her eyes widened, her expression filled with immense joy. Meanwhile, the two armed soldiers hiding outside looked on completely baffled. "Do you hear anything?" "No." Suddenly, a rope shot out from inside, shattering a table. "What, the table?" The two stood there, mouths agape, not noticing what was behind them. "Wait, there's something there." In an instant, a series of ropes coiled around them, pulling tight. "What, I can't move. What is this?" It was over in a few seconds. The men out front were tied up and lying on the ground. Ju-hyun and Zuka emerged. He gave a triumphant smile and calmly told the men, "I knew you were planning something, so I came prepared." Seeing Zuka look back worriedly at the tied-up men, Ju-hyun reassured her as they walked. "Don't worry. I just tied them up for a bit so no one would bother us. Shall we go on a date?" Behind them, one of the men raised a hand, pleading, "Wait." Sitting in the room, Joo-hyun typed on his phone to communicate with Zuka. A moment later, he smiled and held the phone out to her. The message read, "Do you want to go on a date?" Holding the phone, Zuka looked up at him excitedly. "Huh, you know Japanese?" Joo-hyun adjusted his collar, smiled faintly, and whispered, "A little." "You didn't come here alone, did you? You must have come with the Japanese military." At that, she looked up, her eyes wide in disbelief. "Yes, that's right." Seeing her expression, Joo-hyun continued his analysis. "They don't like me, so they won't let you go with me. They're pretty boring, aren't they? I wouldn't be surprised if they make you study and do tedious chores all day." His words hit home. Yes, exactly. As she said that, Joo-hyun gently patted her head. "All right, then. Let's escape together, though it might get a little messy. Just stick with me, okay?" His gesture made Zuka blush as she thought, "He's not as scary as I thought." After their talk, the two of them simply walked out of the room. Behind them lay the bound men. "Is he really the one who wants to kill me?" From behind, Zuka watched Joo-hyun's back as he pressed himself against the wall, looking into the distance. "Since I made eye contact with him, I've been able to read his future. I still have the upper hand." After scouting for a moment, he turned to her and announced with a smile, "This should be far enough." "Too bad I left my future notes at home," she thought, seeing Joo-hyun's attitude. Zuka smiled, closing her eyes tightly without paying attention to what was in front of her. "But I guess it doesn't matter anymore ever since I met him." He held a sharp sword, pointing it straight at her. "Don't say anything, give me your phone." Seeing Zuka's cooperation, Joo-hyun smirked triumphantly. "Good." In an instant, the pink phone was completely smashed under his foot. "My phone!" Despite having a sword at her throat, she yelled angrily, "What the hell are you doing?" Joo-hyun put a finger to his lips, signaling for silence. "I'm just getting rid of anything they can use to track us." As soon as he finished speaking, he pushed her shoulder and spun her around. "It'll be a pain if the Japanese troops find us." Joo-hyun chuckled softly, leaning close to Zuka's ear and whispering interrogatively, "Did you really think I didn't know who you are? You're the user of the prophecy relic, aren't you?" Hearing his questions, she looked back, tears welling up in her eyes. "What should I do now? He knows who I am." "He's much scarier than I thought." At a cafe, a glass of orange juice sat on a table. Joo-hyun picked up the glass and drank it with relish. Outside, an employee quickly closed the door. "Enjoy your time together." Seeing the person leave, he immediately used a rope to tie Zuka's arms tightly. With her hands bound tightly in front of her chest, she glared at him and yelled furiously, "You've gone too far, you liar! I can't believe you called this a date." Joo-hyun held up a cup of ice cream, looked at Zuka, and replied with a smile, "What's wrong? We're here together in this couple's cafe, aren't we? If this isn't a date, then what is it?" But having anticipated this, she looked up worriedly and asked him, "What are you going to do to me? Are you really going to kill me like the prophecy said?" Biting down on the spoon, Joo-hyun stared blankly at Zuka. "For the record, I was planning to kill you sooner." He glanced at his open bag where the hilt of a sword was peeking out. "If you had gotten any closer to me back then, I was thinking of slitting your throat with the Muramasa." Joo-hyun's words made her eyes widen in disbelief. "But you're dumber than I thought. That's how we were able to get this far." Not wanting to waste words, he slammed his hand on the table next to a notebook, looking at Zuka, and pointedly referring to the prophecy, "Write down everything you see in it." Understanding him, she frowned and quickly explained with a worried look, "But I left it at home." Without another word, he reached out and rolled up her sleeve. A bright red symbol was revealed on her upper arm. "You think I care about that?" "This tattoo appeared after you started using the prophecy relic, didn't it?" Standing in front of Zuka, Joo-hyun gripped both of her arms and ordered in a harsh voice, "Touch your tattoo and summon the prophecy relic. You can summon it here." After that brief explanation, he crossed his arms, leaned back in his chair, and sighed. "I can't believe you don't know something this basic." Following Joo-hyun's instructions, a book appeared before Zuka in a puff of smoke. The prophecy relic. It really appeared. Holding a glass of water and watching her write, he ordered sternly, "Write as much as you can. Miss a single line and you're dead." Focusing, Zuka picked up a pencil and struggled to write on the page with her bound hands. Her face was clearly exhausted, with sweat dripping down it. The ice cream on the table gradually disappeared until after a while it was completely gone. Joo-hyun rested his chin on one hand while his other hand furiously tapped on his phone. As if remembering something, he looked up at Zuka. They faced each other in silence, then Joo-hyun went back to his phone. With his feet propped up on a chair, he reminded her lightly, "Don't even think about taking a break." "Why are you slowing down?" Zuka glared at him angrily and blurted out, "Because my hands hurt. How much more do you need?" Hearing her question, Joo-hyun glanced at his phone screen and replied bluntly, "As much as possible." Seeing how dangerous the situation was, Zuka's eyes widened with worry as she made him an offer. I'll give you the future guide. Please just let me go. The offer didn't seem to interest him. Ju-hoon, tapping on his phone, immediately rejected it. Nope, keep writing, heh. His eyes held a train of thought that Zuka couldn't possibly guess. If I wanted it, I would have taken it long ago, but it's Yvonne's relic. An image of a Pandora relic ranking chart appeared. Rank SS. Rank S Future Guide. Rank A Muramasa. Rank B Gold and Silver Axe. Rank C Egyptian Dagger, and Rank D, it's almost at the highest rank. If I try to suppress a high-ranking relic, the consequences will be unpredictable. Lifting his black sleeve, he revealed a heavily scarred area on his forearm from when he tried to control the Muramasa, which was a lower rank than the Future Guide. My arm was already badly injured. If I try to take this one now, it might not be just my arm this time. Ju-hoon remained focused on his phone, his fingers tapping non-stop. And I don't have any healing relics with me either. As if sensing something, he looked up, his gaze fixed on the distance. Outside the door, a group of armed soldiers entered the cafe, aggressively glaring at the owner. Please stop, you're disturbing my customers. We'll be quick, please step back. Standing in the hallway, Captain Mori, with his hands on his hips, ordered the soldiers, check every exit and every room. The group rushed off to search. Sir? Inside the room, Ju-hoon watched their every move through a crack in the door. They're here! He quickly turned to Zuka. How much have you written? Gripping the pen tightly, she looked up and reported, I'm almost done with the first volume. As she finished, Ju-hoon grabbed the stack of papers from the table next to her. That's enough. Seeing his action, Zuka pleaded, Are you going to let me go now? There's one more thing. From his bag, he pulled out a sharp blade and placed it in front of her, making her tremble uncontrollably. Seeing Ju-hoon's hand still gripping the sword, Zuka quickly stammered, Please don't kill me. I'll write more for you. You have nothing to gain by killing me. Without another word, he gripped the hilt and raised the sword high above her, his face darkening. This is the only way you can survive. Ju-hoon's actions and words were completely incomprehensible, leaving Zuka sitting there with wide, tear-filled eyes, terrified. He lowered his head in silence, then unconsciously broke into a bizarre smile. In just a few seconds, the sharp blade was plunged completely into the book on the table, which began to glow with a brilliant blue light. What are you doing, human? The book was deeply impaled by his sharp blade, unable to be separated. Sitting there, Zuka stared at him with wide eyes, her mouth agape, not understanding what was happening. Her blonde hair suddenly lifted from behind her, floating and fluttering in the air. Something appeared inside the cafe building. A series of purple notification panels appeared, Destroyer of Evil Relics. You have unlocked a title, increasing dominance and decreasing harmonization. Dominance has increased. For breaking a high-ranking relic, you have earned the title Giant Hunter. Looking at the panels appearing around him, Ju-hoon sighed in annoyance. Why so many windows? Suddenly, from outside the room, the group of armed soldiers kicked the door in. So you were in this room? Following behind them was Captain Mori. He looked inside. What happened here? The book on the table, the Future Guide, was emitting blue smoke and had been completely incinerated. Inside, he glanced at Captain Mori and smiled mockingly. What's so surprising? I destroyed it. This made the captain so furious he started to stammer. Captain Mori was left sputtering. He gritted his teeth, trembling. Without hesitation, he pointed straight at Ju-hoon and ordered the soldier next to him to kill him. Hearing Ju-hoon's insults, Captain Mori angrily pointed at him and ordered his death. Receiving the order from their superior, the soldiers all aimed their guns directly at Ju-hoon. He just stood there calmly, a defiant smile on his face. Are you kidding? Go ahead and shoot if you think you can. Ju-hoon's words made Captain Mori freeze, gritting his teeth in frustration. He threw something from his hand, making everyone around them look up. Hey, eat this! A piece of mochi landed right on the shoulder of Captain Mori, the leader of the Japanese troops. Delicious Maid's Mochi, C-rank, common grade. Consumable relic, edible type, single use. From the other side, he announced, it belongs to Kyocera. I'm returning it now. A puff of white smoke appeared around Ju-hoon. He gave a scheming smile and said his farewell. I hear it's to die for. Captain Mori quickly sniffed the mochi, then grabbed it and held it tightly. That bastard disappeared. He stared at the pink steaming piece of mochi, completely bewildered. What kind of trick is he playing? The sweet aroma from the mochi made all three of them drool. What is that smell? Disregarding their ranks, the two soldiers lunged at him to snatch the mochi. That's my mochi, give it to me. Without another word, Captain Mori pulled out a handgun, pointed it at the ceiling, and yelled a reminder at them, You bastards, this is my mochi. Know your place? But the other two didn't seem scared. They also drew their guns, and the three of them broke into a brawl, shooting and destroying everything around them. I've got a gun too. Hand over that mochi, it's mine. Back at the airport. On the jet bridge leading to the plane, Joo-hyun sat in a seat inside the cabin looking out the window. There's no escape relic better than the delicious maid's mochi. Not only does it charm the enemy, but it also allows the user to teleport instantly. He took out the notebook Zuka had written in and read, "Anyway, let's take a look at the future guidance." In his thoughts, Joo-hyun recalled. She had once met someone from the Relic support team. There is a support group for the future guidance relic in Japan, the Kanglong Corporation. Because of that, Sasaki might have contacted that military guy. Following that stream of memory, he quickly flipped through the pages, searching for information in the prophecies here. It might be about him. Let's see. Where is it? Just a few seconds later, his eyes narrowed, his pupils suddenly constricting in surprise. Found it. Sitting in the plane's cabin, Joo-hyun began to read the information from the page. Within 1 month, head straight to the greedy underworld. There you will find an omen related to the world's greatest disaster, which is about to begin. After skimming the content, he pondered it and made a guess. The greedy underworld. I'm pretty sure that's Las Vegas at the Midas Underground Auction House. The CEO was on the phone talking to someone on the other end. That's where the CEO and his team went to gather information about someone named Seo Kian. He said that 3 people registered under the name Jika. He must be one of them. The prophecy also points to this. The plane Joo-hyun was on began to taxi down the runway. But the last part, an omen related to the world's greatest disaster. It must be that disaster. Images of a city hit by earthquakes and landslides everywhere. The sky was filled with lightning and crimson beams of light shot down. The calamity of all mankind. It was an event described as the mass appearance of relics all over the world. After that event, treasures gradually emerged and people rushed to find them. After that event, everyone learned of the existence of tombs and the number of people who discovered relics skyrocketed. Back to reality. Holding the notebook, Joo-hyun was lost in thought. But as I recall, that disaster isn't supposed to start this soon. The plane began to take off from the runway marked with white lines below. Moreover, the next line said, "The God who understands your greed will offer to cooperate with you." He closed the notebook, finishing his reading. This means a God-tier relic will appear at the auction house. Is that bastard CEO Kwan aiming for it so he can become as powerful as he was in his past life? For a moment, Joo-hyun's face darkened, then a triumphant smile spread across it. If that's the case, I'll have to steal it from you. Elsewhere, in a room full of modern equipment, was the meeting room of the Japanese excavation research team. Although Sasaki had regained consciousness, he was still very weak. A Japanese soldier stood before a long table where high-ranking leaders were seated. As for the future guidance, it has been completely destroyed. One of them looked at him and asked in a low voice. Meanwhile, Captain Mori and his men opened fire on each other, and in the end, they were all injured and removed from the mission. The soldier standing there nodded and reported truthfully, "Yes, sir." From his seat, a high-ranking leader slammed the table, stood up, and shouted, "What kind of ridiculous story is this? I am truly sorry." From outside the door, a woman stood watching the situation inside, talking on her phone. "You think this is some kind of joke? Please calm down, Mr. Chairman." "How can I be calm in this situation?" She smiled and relayed the news to the person on the other end. "It's confirmed that the future guidance has been destroyed, and the Japan Self-Defense Forces have also suffered heavy losses." The man on the other end shouted in disbelief. "Are you serious?" "Damn it!" The voice on the other end continued. "Are you saying a single person caused all of this?" As she walked away, she quickly replied, "Yes, it seems so." "Who is this crazy bastard?" "At a location not far from there inside a building." "What should we do? Should we get revenge for this loss?" "Revenge? There's no need for that." The silhouette of a man was visible, his back turned as he gazed at the cityscape. "But all the money we invested in researching the future guidance is now wasted." "True, but think about it." On her end, her footsteps began to quicken. "If one person is capable of destroying the future guidance, then they must have some power. What if we could recruit this person to our team?" His words made her frown, and she retorted, "But this person destroyed a rare relic without hesitation. What if he does the same to the company's relics?" Her words made the man on the other end of the line smile in amusement. "What do we do if he harms the chairman's relics?" With his hands in his pockets, he held his head high, laughed, and assured her, "It won't be a problem if we pay him handsomely. There's nothing money can't solve. All you need to do is find this person's whereabouts." A starry night next to a large, luxurious-looking building. Las Vegas, USA. Sitting in a cafe, Joo-hyun held his drink, sipping it while looking at the scenery around him. He quickly placed his half-finished glass of orange juice on the table. "Why are these bastards so late?" A noise made Joo-hyun turn his head to look into the distance. Jung-woo raised his hand and shouted his name. "There you are, Joo-hyun." Next to him, Do-kyung was arguing irritably with a waiter. "What did you say?" "No, I'm with the guy sitting over there." We have business to discuss, got it? Ju-hyun sat with his arms crossed and complained, "You guys are 30 minutes late." Seung-woo pointed at the waiter and explained, "It's because that tall dude over there wouldn't let us in." Hearing himself being wrongly blamed, the waiter quickly explained, "This is the Midas auction house. Only auction participants are allowed inside. If you are not a participant, please leave." This made Seung-woo glare angrily, his mouth agape. "See, this guy just keeps rambling on. What did we do wrong for you to treat us like this?" The two of them kept going back and forth, making him sit there with his head in his hands, utterly fed up. "If you three continue to behave like this, we will be forced to use stronger measures." "Damn it, what's he saying? Speak Korean." Seeing the situation was getting tense, Ju-hyun spoke up to admonish him. "Look at you always acting so arrogant. You're in America and you're demanding they speak Korean." This made Seung-woo stammer, well. Looking at the waiter, he smiled and asked, "These three are my guests. May they join me?" The three behind him heard his next words and just stood there, stunned. "I apologize. It seems I've made a mistake." "It's all right. It's understandable. Just look at how shabbily they're dressed." Watching the blond man's back as he walked away, Seung-woo couldn't help but be surprised. "You can speak English." Ju-hyun laughed quickly, moving past the time-wasting, pointless issues. "That's not the issue. Report what you found." He handed him a thick book filled with the members' background information. "These are the documents related to the three people named J.K. Looks like you guys did your homework." Looking at the information Seo-woo provided, Ju-hyun was pleased. "These guys are pretty useful." He sat at the coffee table across from him, pointed, and asked, "So did you find the person you were looking for?" Ju-hyun nodded in response. "I did." He slammed the stack of background files on the table, not caring in the slightest. "This must be Seo-gyuhan's fake identity." Ju-hyun's hand moved, reaching for the green-covered book in the middle of the table. "If he's here, it means there's a very valuable artifact in this place. I have to check first." He quickly flipped through the pages of the green book. If there really is a god-tier artifact, seeing Ju-hyun completely focused on the green book, Seo-woo couldn't help but wonder, why are you looking at an auction catalog? Only the ridiculously rich gather in a place like this. If you win a bid, you wouldn't have enough money even if you sold your house. Ignoring his words, he kept his head down, focused on reading the contents. Inside the book were pictures of various antiques with their full descriptions. "There are no god-tier artifacts here. What was the prophecy talking about?" After a long silence, Ju-hyun looked at the bewildered Seo-woo and said, "The Code of Hammurabi and Shakespeare's Quill. There are a few things I want to buy." Unable to contain his anger, he slammed his hand on the table, making the glass of water shake violently. "You're planning to join the auction?" With a calm expression, he replied softly, "That's right." Thinking Ju-hyun was joking, Seo-woo immediately warned him, "Are you kidding me? This is the Midas auction house!" He shot up from his seat and stared at him, causing two guys at the next table to turn and look in confusion. "The starting bids are usually 10 or 20 billion won. We're just here to make some connections. We don't have the money to buy anything." Hearing his words, he slammed the green book shut, smiled, and asked back, "Are you saying I don't have the money to buy things here?" Seung-woo's group of three hurried after Ju-hyun. "Where are you going?" With his hands in his pockets, he smiled and walked nonchalantly. "Have you forgotten this is a gambling city?" Grabbing the doorknob, Ju-hyun gave a meaningful smile over his shoulder. "You have to do something to make a little money." As if he suddenly understood, his jaw dropped and he broke into a sweat. "You're planning to make money by gambling? You're insane." A city with dazzling red lights overflowing with ways to make money lay before Ju-hyun. This guy is really crazy. In front of everyone, the numbers kept rising without stopping. How much higher will the numbers go? CEO Do-kyung and Jewelry were completely stunned by the scene in front of them. "He still has 10 turns left. It could go even higher." Unbelievable. The one sitting in front of the slot machine was none other than Ju-hyun. He was using his talent to make money. Can this machine really pay out this much? If you don't cash out immediately, it can accumulate to that amount. The sight made Seung-woo's brow furrow, his face covered in sweat, showing his astonishment. But that just made things even crazier. He could make millions of won from a single slot machine. A voice from behind echoed in his ear, causing Ju-hyun to purse his lips into a satisfied smile. How is he doing that? A moment later, he pulled a payment voucher out of the machine. Ju-hyun held up the voucher that reeked of money, waving it lightly in front of Seung-woo, and ordered, "Let's go somewhere else. Stop dawdling and follow me to cash this in." Taking the high-value voucher, he spoke with admiration for him. "How much is this man?" "Wow, Ju-hyun, I'm starting to admire you a little. What if some psycho comes and tries to rob us?" As they were walking, a hand suddenly shot out, blocking his way. "I'll have to ask you to stop right there." Jin Hyung looked at Ju-hyun with his hands on his hips. Excuse me, I need to conduct a search. May I pat you down? We don't get many players who hit so many jackpots. With a slight sigh, he smiled at the man and nodded in agreement. Sure. And so Ju-hyun stood still, letting Jin-hyung search his entire body. You won't find anything. You are right, sir. From his palm next to his index finger, something was dangling. May I ask what that is? In response to the question, Ju-hyun held up the knife to face Jin-hyung and answered honestly, a souvenir. I bought it because the gold plating is beautiful, so I usually carry it with me. After observing it, the man nodded. Yes, it's just an ordinary souvenir. Only he knew its true origin. The knife smiled smugly. Of course it looks that way. But the knife was actually the gold and silver axe in disguise. It immediately started complaining to Ju-hyun, Why must I take on this humiliating form? How much longer must I stay in this form, master? His thoughts surfaced all at once. Changing an artifact's form is one of the most important skills for a user. The golden axe artifact has the ability to detect wealth and value. Sitting at the machine holding that gold-plated knife, I knew which machine would give me the most jackpots and which casino would be the most profitable. Truly a precious artifact. Seeing nothing unusual about Ju-hyun, Jin-hyung quickly apologized. My apologies. It seems you're just very lucky, sir. Not far away, a man with his hands on his hips ordered his staff, sweep the area. Have the staff check the machines, too. I've never seen anything like this before. Realizing he couldn't stay long, he gestured. Let's go to another casino. Don't make a big deal out of this. Behind them was CEO Woo, who looked up at him with a puzzled expression. So, Ju-hyun, tell me your secret. After walking for a bit, he took the cash voucher and slammed it on the counter. Ju-hyun smiled and ordered to have it all exchanged for cash, leaving the female employee at the exchange counter stunned. All of it. We can take you to the VIP room, sir. Please wait a moment. With the same smile, he looked at the girl and hurried her along. No need, I'm in a hurry. Just give me the cash. At a nearby table sat 2 glasses of beer and a plate of pastries. Holy crap, I've never seen so much money in my life. Shung-woo hugged the pile of cash, his eyes sparkling. This is enough for us to live lavishly for the rest of our lives. Jewelry was just as excited as him. We're rich. We're millionaires. A single sentence from Ju-hyun made them both freeze in stunned silence for a few seconds. It seems you've misunderstood something. That's not your money! Meanwhile, he picked up his glass of water and smiled faintly at the two, causing them to stammer an explanation. Of course, but this is still too much money. Holding a stack of bills, Seung-woo tried to reason with Ju-hyun. Hey, Ju-hyun, do you really need to join the auction? Wouldn't it be better to just take all this money and go home to enjoy it? But he was flatly rejected. No, with this money you can buy whatever you want and live happily for the rest of your life. Holding the glass, Ju-hyun downed it in one go because his goal was to acquire the artifact at the auction. If I want to go up against CEO Kwon, I'll need even more money. As soon as he finished, he slammed the empty glass on the table and ordered, hurry up and eat. I'm going to another casino, he said, leaving Sung-woo dumbfounded again. Standing outside a casino with a glittering, inviting sign, the knife in his hand whispered, I can smell money. That's right. When will Master change me back to my original form? Here, fine. I'll enjoy the scent of despair from these casinos a little longer. Ju-hyun gripped the knife tightly and said to it, Stop with the backhanded compliments. Find me a machine with a big jackpot. Receiving the order, it replied, All right. With the knife held tightly in his hand, he began his search. Let's see. A purple panel gradually appeared beside him. The contents of the panel read, You have approached the location of an artifact. Enjoy yourself. Your affinity with the artifact has increased. Your reconnaissance skill has increased. Looking at the information, Ju-hyun was deep in thought. Although a casino is a place to make money, there's still one problem. Without hesitation, the three of them, Seung-woo and Jo-kyung, quickly entered the casino. It's just like a battlefield, a place where people find despair and sorrow. Any place where humans suffer is a paradise for artifacts. I don't like doing things that please these artifacts. As he walked, he gripped the knife in his hand with extreme determination. Let's make some quick cash and get out of here. Suddenly, a voice from behind called his name, causing Yoo-hoon to turn around. Wait, Joo-hoon, over here! Chang-suk, holding Joo-hoon's bag and trembling uncontrollably, urgently questioned him. What's in your bag? Why is it suddenly... Sensing something was wrong, he quickly reached out to unzip the bag. Yoo-hoon's eyes widened in surprise as he stared deep inside. Inside the bag was a solid silver axe with embossed patterns on it. It's coming, the silver axe, it's coming! The two axes were of contrasting colors and served entirely different purposes. For Yoo-hoon, while the golden axe had the ability to seek wealth and prosperity, the silver axe could detect enemies intending to threaten its owner. After observing the silver axe for a moment, his brow furrowed his face, showing clear confusion. Why is this axe suddenly reacting? In front of Yu Hoen's group, two men were grabbing each other by the collar and fighting. You cheating bastard! What do you mean cheating hand over the money? A mess of betting chips and broken liquor bottles were scattered across the floor. Sirs, please stop. It's dangerous here. The machines are all falling over. Someone stole my wallet, damn it. I've lost everything. The scene before him made Seong-woo frown, gritting his teeth in disbelief. What the hell is going on here? He didn't seem to notice what was behind him. A concierge with blazing red eyes was holding a sharp metal object charging straight at Yu Hoen. He heard it silently, casting a sharp glance in the man's direction. In just a few seconds, a kick was thrown, sending the concierge flying onto his back. Looking at the guy lying unconscious on the ground, he angrily questioned, "Judging by your clothes, you're a dealer at this casino. Are you insane? What were you thinking attacking a customer like that?" The dealer's actions were baffling, and he quickly thought to himself, "No tombs have appeared around here recently. Why would he suddenly attack?" A sound suddenly drew Yu Hoen's gaze. A woman's legs came into view, approaching his group. The girl's blonde hair fluttered in the air. She appeared in an extremely elegant black dress, walking through the chaos. Seong-woo and Do-kyung were captivated by her beauty, their faces flushing red. "An actress, I bet she's a celebrity. Who is that beautiful girl?" Only he understood the situation, gritting his teeth with worry. Yu Hoen quickly turned to the two behind him and urged, "Let's bounce pack your stuff quickly." "Why, you said you were going to make money, right?" Yu Hoen's face was dripping with sweat as he pressed his lips together. "No wonder bad luck is spreading like a plague. We have to avoid her." The beautiful and elegant woman was none other than Irene Hyun, the youngest daughter of the family that owns Hyun Bank. Seeing the backs of the two from Yu Hoen's group as they left, Irene turned her head to watch them. But there was something wrong with her. An image flashed a beam of light from the sky, destroying every building in the city. The God Relics are the most powerful of all relics, the Relics. The owners of God Relics stood above all others. A large group of people stood with their heads held high, looking around, their faces not clearly visible. Because of this, those users were called by the title God. Titles such as the God of Fate, the God of Conquest, and the God of Wealth. Those people held immense power in the era of relics. Irene raised her hand, emitting a stream of unlucky green magic. That was her ability. Among them, Irene Hyun possessed an extremely terrifying relic. Her title was the God of Failure. Everything near her was struck with misfortune. Quickly, his group moved out of the gate. Inside the casino, everyone would lose all their money and go bankrupt. She even caused global economic chaos once, so she had to be avoided at all costs. Seeing that they couldn't escape her, Irene grabbed her purse and chased after Ju Haeon. "Hey, you wait a second." But he deliberately ignored her, turning away and pretending to whistle as if he hadn't noticed her. "Wait for me." Just as Ju Haeon's hand reached for the doorknob, it was blocked by a purple light. A series of purple notification windows appeared, popping up right in front of his eyes. The text inside was a mix of red and white, like a warning to Ju Haeon. "You have detected a murderous aura from the door. Your relic has sustained serious damage. Warning. The number of uses for your relic will be greatly depleted." The event caught him off guard, and he furrowed his brow in anger. "Damn it!" From behind, Irene ran up, her blonde hair floating. Irene grabbed both of Ju Haeon's arms, smiling as she looked up at him. "Could you please hear me out?" Seeing her standing next to him, Ju Haeon gritted his teeth, his expression clearly showing his displeasure. "Great, she's got me now." In contrast, Irene's face was flushed as she looked up at him with wide eyes. "Can you please hear me out?" Irene's hands gripped Ju Haeon's arm tightly. A puff of purple smoke appeared. A series of purple notification windows appeared continuously. "Warning, you are being enveloped by a murderous aura. Due to the intense aura, your relic will sustain serious damage. The number of uses for your relic will be greatly depleted. Your luck is being overwhelmed by the murderous aura. Everything you do from now on will end in failure. Your performance has been severely reduced." Without hesitation, he quickly flung her hands off him. "Let go of me." Yu Hoen's action left Irene quite flustered. She hurriedly looked around at everyone and explained, "I'm sorry. I got a little carried away because I was so excited to see you." Seeing the beauty get yelled at, Do-kyung gritted his teeth in anger and turned to Seo Eun-gu. "Why is Seo Ju-hoon acting like that?" Beside him, he also looked quite surprised. "How should I know? He looks like he's seen a ghost." Over here, Chang-suk looked like he remembered something, his mouth gaping as he blurted out, "I remember now. I remember who that girl is." Looking at Irene's pleading face, Chang-suk said with confidence, "She's Irene Hyun." "I'm sure of it? What, that American girl is from the Hyun family?" "That's right, I've seen her face on the internet before." As soon as she spoke, the three men behind them huddled together, trembling. "Are you the person everyone's been talking about who keeps hitting the jackpot?" Meanwhile, he stood there listening in silence with a displeased expression. "I've been looking all over for you." Looking at Yoo-ho and Irene smiled admiringly and pleaded, "If it's not too much to ask, could you tell me how you did it?" Her attitude surprised Yoo-hoan. Why would one of the richest people in the world be so curious about hitting the jackpot? Strange. He quickly rejected Irene's request. "You've got the wrong person." Meanwhile, Seong-woo ignored her pleading look and stepped forward. Grabbing the bag on his back, he quickly reproached, "You psycho, don't you know who this girl is?" "She's Irene Hyun. She came all this way to find you and you're just going to disappoint her." Seeing Joo-hyun remain silent, Seong-gu kept turning his head and speaking angrily. "Are you listening? Stop, let's just explain everything to her. Don't miss this chance, you idiots." A moment later, the three of them were lying at her feet, completely unconscious. Please forgive me. 911, call 911 inches. Oh, crap, my stomach." The group's shouting echoed around the building that evening. "Get over here, you idiots. Joo-hyun, take it easy. Wait a second." He knelt and looked up at Seong-gu, instructing, "Listen carefully. You have to stay as far away from that woman as possible." Clutching his stomach, his face pale and trembling, he asked, "What do you mean?" Joo-hyun turned and left, leaving the three of them sprawled on the ground. "When you feel better, take the bag and go somewhere. Be careful with the money." Seong-gu clutched his stomach and asked, "Where are you going?" He answered honestly, "To an auction house. When I'm done, I'll call you to bring the money." As he walked away, Joo-hyun couldn't stop thinking about the cash. "I was planning to make a bit more before the auction started, but oh well, I can't lose any more money." A moment later, he appeared at the entrance hall of the auction house. Weaving through the crowd, Joo-hyun lowered his head in thought. "Why would she be looking for me?" Suddenly, a voice called out from a distance. "Hey, you stop blocking the way, move it." Seong-yun stood in the distance, a smug smile on his face as he looked his way. "This is the VIP entrance. Commoners go that way." Joo-hyun stood there silently. He quietly observed the man Jun Sung-yun. He's CEO Kwan's right-hand man. He looks much younger than before, but he still has that same irritating look on his face. If this bastard is here, it means CEO Kwan is here too. From beside Sung-hyun, a middle-aged man with sad eyes appeared. "Isn't that right, Mr. Chairman?" The man slowly approached him, followed by Seong-yun, the CEO of Taijun. Joo-hyun frowned, his eyes filled with the intense hatred he had harbored for so long. "I've finally found you." Back in the past, Joo-hyun was kneeling on the ground. Streams of blood trickled down his face. "All right, come on, I'll tear you apart from the inside." Facing him was a gaping maw filled with sharp fangs. "And that bastard?" Joo-hyun glanced toward the giant monster. He silently vowed to himself, "Even if I become a ghost, I will ruin your life." Back in the present, he stared at the face of Chairman Taejun. The man glanced at him for only a few seconds before walking past, completely ignoring him. "He doesn't recognize me." Seizing the opportunity, Joo-hyun gave a smug, scheming smile and vowed, "I'm going to take every single relic you plan on buying at this auction. I will be the winner." Suddenly, a commotion behind him caught Joo-hyun's attention. He quickly turned around. A group of people were arguing, and one person was frantically on their phone. "What's going on?" "My stocks are plummeting. I lost all my money because of a flight. What is happening?" "My phone's not working. It was fine just a minute ago." Seeing the situation unfold, he looked around and guessed, "Wait, don't tell me." And just as he thought, there was Irene, purse in hand, searching for him. "Shit, she followed me all the way here." Wasting no time, he turned to leave. He only took a few steps before she called out, "Wait a minute! How did she find me in this massive crowd?" Reaching Joo-hyun, she immediately began to plead, "Please, just hear me out." Irene hesitated in the face of his anger. "I'm truly desperate." "I don't know what else to do." For some reason, Joo-hyun suddenly walked face first into the glass door in front of him. Seeing him clutching his injured face in pain, Irene rushed to ask, "Are you okay?" "You walked straight into that door pretty hard." Trying to ignore the pain and his bloody nose, Joo-hyun snapped at her. "Do I look okay to you? Stop following me. This is all your fault." His words were exactly what Irene needed to hear. Her face lit up. "You're right, it is my problem." Irene glanced over her shoulder. Joo-hyun was baffled. What kind of answer was that? She quickly approached him, rushing to get the words out. "I don't know if you'll believe me, but I seem to bring bad luck to everyone around me." Her voice and eyes were filled with a desperate plea. "I want to be lucky like you because I believe there's a way to make the people around me happy." The image of her was burned into his mind. A girl radiating an aura of bad luck. She was the god of misfortune, the one who had ruined countless fortunes and devastated entire nations. What Irene did next left him completely stunned. She grabbed both of Joo-hyun's hands. Why was she acting like this? Is this an act? Her hands gripped his as she looked up with pleading eyes. Can you tell me how to get lucky like you? I'll do anything to find out. As Irene's voice echoed, the purple board appeared again, making him frown worriedly. If it's about money, I'll give you as much as you want. A series of messages appeared on the board. Due to the reappearance of the murderous aura from the Gothic Relic, the immunity skill has been activated. You have been attacked by a Gothic Relic. Immunity level has increased. The repeating messages reminded him of the small pill he had once swallowed. Immunity, that's the skill I got from eating that silver pill from the quest reward. Back then, all I knew was that it gave me a skill. Once again, a message appeared on the purple board. Due to the effect of immunity, you have resisted the power of the relic. Escape the effects of the Gothic Relic. This skill was activated by the Gothic Relic. It activated because her relic attacked me. Seeing that he was safe, Ju-hyun smiled and replied, "You've got a point." He then explained his silence to Irene. "I'm fine, I was just thinking." Hearing this, she seemed relieved. "I'm so sorry my request was too sudden." Ju-hyun observed the girl in front of him silently celebrating. If this is really the case, then I don't have to avoid her anymore. Not only that, but having her around actually strengthens my immunity. Ju-hyun leaned against the door, stroking his chin in thought. She could help me during the auction by causing trouble for the other participants. 2 birds, 1 stone. As he glanced at her, he recalled a familiar name. "Wait, there's still Chairman Taejun over here." The chairman was yelling into his phone. "What?" Our branch in China suddenly caught fire. "What do you mean by that?" Seo Yul stammered on the other end. "The branch office just reported." The chairman cut him off. "What about the production schedule? Can they still ship on schedule?" Nearby, Ju-hyun stood silently watching him suffer. "What are you waiting for? Call them back and find out." "Yes, sir. He's been hit by the Gothic Relic." He glanced over at Irene, thinking to himself that in the past the chairman would have left the area immediately. That means he doesn't know about the God of Misfortune's existence. An idea flashed in Ju-hyun's mind. He broke into a cunning smile. "The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I can definitely use her." Looking over at her, he pretended to entertain her idea. "Your proposal isn't half bad." Irene turned to him, delighted. "Really?" With one hand in his pocket, Ju-hyun began to explain, "But I have to warn you, becoming as lucky as I am isn't easy." She hung on his every word. "Of course I understand, although I'd like to discuss this in more detail." Ju-hyun's next words silenced her, "But I need to get to the auction." He looked at her and offered, "If you don't mind, why don't you join me?" When Irene remained silent, Ju-hyun added without hesitation, "Of course it's understandable if you can't. The tickets are extremely expensive." She turned and ran off, phone in hand. "That's fine, money isn't an issue for me." Watching her run off, Ju-hyun chuckled to himself. "I knew you'd come along." For her, buying a ticket to this place is like buying a pack of gum. He watched as Irene's figure disappeared into the distance. "Irene Hyun, I'm curious to see what will become of you." In a room above the stage, an auctioneer began the proceedings. "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We will now commence the 74th auction." He announced loudly, "Our first item up for bid is..." Up above, Ju-hyun and Irene sat watching. So many empty seats. Now there were only 2 other guests left attending the auction in front of them. Within 3 minutes of Irene Hyun joining him at the auction, only 2 competitors were left. Most of the attendees had to leave to deal with unexpected misfortunes that had suddenly befallen them. Taejun was also still here, with Seong-hyun sitting beside him looking worried. Chairman Taejun didn't leave despite his factory in China catching fire, which means there's something here he desperately wants. When the next item was announced, Irene pointed. Her eyes sparkling, she eagerly asked him, "That's a bottle of Russian imperial wine that's over 100 years old. Are you planning to buy it?" Sitting in his chair with his arms crossed, Ju-hyun announced with a smug grin, "The item I'm interested in won't be up until the second half of the auction." The woman next to him chimed in enthusiastically, "Is that so?" A moment later, he suddenly turned to look at Irene, who was focused on the auction. The features of her face came into full view under his gaze. "She's the god of failure, Irene Hyun, but she's completely different from what I remember." It didn't seem like she was acting. The image of her standing before Ju-hyun this morning saying those unbelievable words came flooding back. "The strangest part of all this is, and I don't know if you'll believe me, but it seems I bring misfortune to anyone around me." The truth was, she knew nothing about the relic. He fell into a state of confusion, his mind filled with thoughts. If that were the case, then the relic must have attached itself to her. Irene tucked her golden hair behind her ear in a shy gesture. "What do you mean you listened and believed me?" She continued, "I feel so much better having someone to talk to about my problems." This made Ju-hyun smile and glance her way. "It's no big deal." A series of notification windows appeared again. Because the owner's mood has improved, the relic's power has been enhanced. The relic's power is increasing at an alarming rate. Hearing his words, Irene smiled with delight. What do you mean it's no big deal? It makes me incredibly happy. An aura of energy radiated from her, terrifying everyone nearby, including him. Above them, the ceiling of the auction hall began to shake violently. An earthquake. A series of purple notification windows appeared all at once. The relic's influence is spreading within the target radius. Misfortune is engulfing you. The relic you possess is being severely damaged. The color drained from Ju-hyun's face, and he stood frozen to the spot. It's cracking into pieces. Master, what are you doing? Do something. A few seconds later, regaining his composure, he immediately looked over at Irene. Unbelievable. The happier the user, the stronger the relic, and yet she's acting as if nothing's wrong. What just happened? What kind of psycho relic is this? Then, once again, amidst puffs of purple smoke, the purple windows appeared. You have been attacked by a goth relic. Immunity has increased. Immunity has reached its limit. Resistance to relic influence has been enhanced. Disease resistance has been enhanced. My immunity skill is leveling up like crazy. If this keeps up, my relic will fall apart. Ju-hyun raised a trembling hand. He looked up at her and said, Don't get your hopes up. I'd feel terrible if we couldn't come to an agreement. Irene nodded thoughtfully. Come to think of it, we haven't really discussed what we can do for each other, have we? Meanwhile, he lowered his head and shot a sharp glance at the woman beside him. And even if your luck improves, how can you be sure you won't bring misfortune to others anymore? Ju-hyun's words hit home, and she lowered her head sadly. You're right. I guess there's no guarantee. As her mood plummeted, a purple notification window flashed before his eyes. The owner's mood has declined. The relic's power has decreased. Back at the auction, the auctioneer on stage resumed. It seems we had a small tremor, but everything is under control now. The current bid is $770,000. Do I hear a higher bid? In the audience, several people raised their hands, bidding on the item $1,000,000. A loud argument drew Ju-hyun's attention from his seat. What do you think you're doing? If you don't like it, then outbid me. I'll match any price. You think you can beat me? He glanced at the group of people fighting over the item. Their minds weren't stable due to the relic's influence. Wait. Ju-hyun turned to Irene, who was looking away, and thought, I can use her to eliminate the remaining rivals. Noticing her sudden turn, he quickly spoke to cover his tracks. You don't have to be sad. Nothing's certain yet. Who knows, maybe if you get luckier, people won't be unlucky anymore. Ju-hyun looked forward, smiling faintly as he proposed an idea to her. Let's take care of this quickly. You said you want to know how to become lucky, and I'll show you how. At his words, she lowered her head, her face blushing. Is that really true? Seeing she had taken the bait, he smiled and nodded, a scheming look on his face. And so in their seats at the auction, the two of them chatted away animatedly. I deliberately said that to make Irene Hyun happy, tricking her into believing I could solve her problem. With each strike of the gavel, arms fell and money was spent. Because when she was happy, the relic's power multiplied. As a result, the other rivals lost control and bid on everything in sight. In the end, they burned through all their money on useless, extravagant items. I was glad everything went smoothly. Taking that opportunity, Ju-hyun swept up all the relics he needed. Because everyone had burned through their money in the first half, I was able to secure all the relics I wanted in the second half of the auction. But there was one person he had to be wary of, Chairman Kwon Tae-jun. There were a few relics I had to concede to CEO Kwon. That's because he wasn't really affected by the relic's power. His eyes narrowed as if he sensed something, revealing his vigilance. It's because his relic dominance stat is too high. That bastard. Relics like the jar, the mirror, and the fan appeared. But since my knowledge of relics is far greater than his, I only let him have the less useful ones. Taking out his notebook, Ju-hyun scribbled a few lines. Let's see. Hammurabi's Code, Shakespeare's quill, Marie Antoinette's necklace. The god-grade relic mentioned in the prophecy still hasn't appeared. Staring at the notebook, he was lost in thought for a long while, his mind racing. The auction is about to end. How strange. Seeing Ju-hyun's continued silence, an impatient Irene spoke up. So have you decided to make a deal with me or not? I feel like you're just beating around the bush. He took the notebook and tucked it inside his jacket. My apologies. I suppose it's time I got serious, isn't it? Let's go somewhere quieter. Oh, we can discuss the details and make our deal there. This auction is almost over anyway. Just as he finished speaking, the auctioneer on stage began to announce the final item. All right, we will now begin tonight's surprise event. Let's reveal the final item. It's the mysterious almond tree that's been attracting so much attention lately. Seeing the item on display, Ju-hyun's eyes narrowed in thought. Wait, that's Tae-jun over there. He was also staring at it, his eyes filled with desire. A tree with a dense canopy of leaves, Qin Shi Huang's elixir of life. It angrily rebuked the arrogant humans, take proper care of me. Stop using this fake sunlight and bring me some real sun. With a single glance, he knew it was a god-grade relic. Not only that, but it was a healing type. Without hesitation, Ju Hyun raised his hand to get the relic. I have to get it no matter the cost. Over there, Tae-jun also raised his arm. The man glanced over at him suspiciously. Damn it. Does he know how valuable this relic is? The origin of that elixir plant relic began with a king from ancient times. Emperor Qin Shi Huang was a powerful ruler of the Qin dynasty. When rumors of the elixir plant spread, the emperor sent people everywhere to search for it, and that very plant was the one on the auction block today. After many years, it was finally found, the almond tree. Before I died, that bastard Sojuin already had it. In the past, a disease-ridden Ju Hyun knelt on the ground as a sack was thrown down beside him. Back then, my body was riddled with diseases from the relic's influence, so I had to rely on the fruit from the elixir plant to survive. As a result, instead of getting money, I was only rewarded with this fruit and ended up having to follow all of Seokyeon's orders. Simply put, that artifact was how Seokyeon had control over my life. After pondering the past for a while, Do-ho finally understood. That bastard, so this is where he got it. His eyes narrowed, his pupils constricting, revealing his deep resentment for the man. It's not just about your participation. This time I'm taking it from you. You bastard, you're not gonna give up, are you? If this artifact falls into his hands, my life will repeat itself all over again. Standing next to Do-hyun, Irene accepted the offer and boldly declared, I'm in. When it comes to money, I don't lose to anyone. The atmosphere in the stands was buzzing as the bids climbed sky-high. $46,000,000,000, $47,000,000,000, $48,000,000,000, $49,000,000,000. Suddenly, a bid was placed that sent a murmur through the crowd, $50,000,000,000. The bid even made the auctioneer on stage break out in a sweat. Incredible, it seems we've reached the $50,000,000,000 mark. Are there any other bids? A new record-breaking bid came from Chairman Tae-jun, $100,000,000,000. It was a price that struck fear into many. Damn it! He just bid $100,000,000,000. Insane! As for Do-hyun, he just silently glanced at him. That bastard! He quietly lowered his head, thoughts racing. Over $100,000,000,000 is beyond what I can afford. It was a clear loss from the very beginning. On the stage, the auctioneer asked once more. The current bid is $100,000,000,000. Does anyone want to bid higher? From the seats, a hand shot up high. It was Irene's. She had decided to help Do-hyun to the very end. $150,000,000,000. That made him break into a triumphant smile. Perfect timing for the cavalry to arrive. Back on the stage, the bid made the auctioneer's jaw drop. What? On the other side, Tae-jun and Soon were equally stunned, both gritting their teeth in anger. What the hell? Determined to see it through, he shot up from his seat and yelled a higher bid. $160,000,000,000. Damn it, the price is still going up. Irene simply gave a gentle smile and signaled with her hand, placing another new bid, $200,000,000,000. Her action made him grit his teeth in confusion. What, you weren't bidding before, so why are you joining in now? Beside him, Seun quickly advised his chairman, I think we should give up, Mr. Chairman. His words immediately annoyed Tae-jun. Oh, what did you say? Seun began to explain. If I'm not mistaken, that woman is Irene Hyun, the youngest daughter of the Hyun family. He then glanced over at the two of them, Ju Hyun and Irene, sitting there triumphantly. That family has enough money to last for generations. Tae-jun was so angry he gritted his teeth, unsure of what to do. Damn it! He decided to fight to the end, and the bid jumped to $220,000,000. I'm not backing down, Mr. Chairman. As soon as he spoke, she countered with another exorbitant bid. Next up, $300,000,000, making everyone around them stare in disbelief. My God, they're raising the bid by hundreds of millions now. He just sat there smiling and waiting, enjoying the show. We've already crushed Seokyeon's bid twice. The price made the man fume with rage. Let me go, how dare you! Seun grabbed Tae-jun to hold him back. Mr. Chairman, please calm down. In the end, the elixir plant went to Irene Hyun for $500,000,000. At a cafe, he picked up a glass of delicious orange juice. Ju Hyun looked at Irene and smiled amusingly. $500,000,000 is a pretty steep price, don't you think? She immediately shook her head. No, money has never been an issue for me. Looking at him sitting across from her, Irene began to bring up her own problem. Speaking of which, how are you planning to solve my problem? She wondered how Ju Hyun was going to help her escape her bad luck. Are you going to share your luck with me, or give me some kind of good luck charm like a rabbit's foot? His next words made her gasp in startled confusion. Actually, I'm not giving you anything. Feeling like she'd been tricked, Irene got angry. Are you tricking me? Ju-Heon quickly held up his hands, trying to explain. No, please hear me out. He clasped his hands together, his sharp gaze fixed on her. Your problem can't be solved with a simple good luck charm. The only way to solve this is to separate that thing inside of you. Irene looked completely surprised. Separate, Ju-Heon quickly elaborated to help her understand. Simply put, you will hand over the item you possess. Looking at Irene, he gave a smug smile, his mind racing. That's right, the only way to solve this is to deal with the artifact she possesses. If I do that, I'll get my hands on the bad luck artifact. I'm the one who benefits the most. Du-Hoon leaned back in his chair and proposed the solution to her. I'm sure you've noticed that a strange item follows you wherever you go. Just give it to me and your problem will be solved. Irene stroked her chin thoughtfully. She tried to recall any such items, an item that always follows me. I don't think I have anything like that. Du-Hoon immediately countered, Try throwing away everything on you right now one by one. Hearing this, her expression fell. To be honest, I've tried that before, but nothing ever came back. Strange. As if remembering something, Du-Hoon leaned in, looked at Irene, and asked loudly, What about a tattoo? Have any tattoos appeared on your body? As soon as she heard his question, her expression changed instantly, her eyes widening in shock. Seeing her expression, Du-Hoon was certain his guess was correct. So you do have one right. A series of images of ancient artifacts appeared. According to him, artifacts are divided into two types, consumable and possession. A tattoo appears on the owner of a possession-type artifact. In the past, Zuka had a tattoo on his arm, and consequently Sasaki had one on hers as well. You got this when you started using the future diary, didn't you? It forms a bond with its owner through a tattoo. A man with a dragon tattoo on his arm held a spear glowing with red light. Anyone can use consumable artifacts, but they have a limited number of uses. Unlike consumable artifacts, possession-type ones have unlimited uses, but only their owner can control them. All the most powerful artifacts are possession-type. Grabbing her wallet, she quickly pulled something out to show Ju-Hoon. Let me show you a picture. Irene held out a photo toward him. Here. The photo showed her with a black aura swirling around her body. Wait, is that... Seeing the look on Ju-Hoon's face, Irene grew worried as well. What's wrong? Is there a problem? The image of her arms wreathed in black energy made him ponder. Irene's artifact is a parasitic type. This kind is quite rare, but they reside inside the user's body. After observing it for a few seconds, he handed the phone back to Irene. Since her artifact is a god-tier one that brings misfortune to everything, I was expecting something like the golden apple of Eris. So what kind of artifact does she possess? Ju-Hoon silently observed her worried face. But one thing was certain, I couldn't separate that terrifying power from her body. If that's the case? He took a piece of paper, placed it on the table, and wrote, I thought this would be easy, but it seems I was mistaken. He then wrote down Ju-Hee's phone number. He then handed it to Irene. This is my number. When we have more time, let's try to figure out a solution together. With that, he quickly left with a scheming smile, leaving a bewildered Irene in his wake. Goodbye. I can't forcibly separate the artifact from her. In that case, it's best to make her an ally. Forging relationships isn't a bad idea. They might be useful someday. Back at the auction hall, the artifact plant from the auction was sitting on a table. Since you've paid for this almond tree, it now belongs to you. You can pick up the other items after payment. Beside him, Ju-Hoon picked up his phone and suggested, All right, let me call my subordinate to come pay. Hearing this, the employee chuckled and replied, Please take your time. The call on the other end wasn't being answered. It made him a little irritated. Why aren't these bastards picking up? In an instant, Du-Hoon's eyes narrowed. He sensed something. Something wasn't right. His mind flashed back to his conversation with Seo-Yu before he left. Before I left, did I just entrust everything to the enemy? Snapping out of his thoughts, Du-Hoon turned his head to look at the employee. Hang on, I have a favor to ask. From his pocket, he pulled out a thick wad of cash, smiled, and continued. It's nothing special, I just want to tip you for being so handsome. Elsewhere, 3 pairs of feet were hurriedly racing down a dark road. Those 3 were none other than Seo-Yu Do-kyung and Chang-suk. We've run far enough, he won't find us. Let's rest a bit, boss. This thing is too heavy, maybe we should take a break. Seeing that his 2 underlings were right, he clutched the bag of money, panting heavily. All right, let's rest for a bit, I'm out of breath. Is all the money still in the bag? Opposite him, Do-kyung laughed while catching his breath. Of course we're fucking rich now. Seo-Yu laughed along. This is more than enough for us to live it up for the rest of our lives. Before his smile could fade, something slashed past, making him freeze. The one who launched the attack was Du Hoen. He stood there with a furious expression. "How dare you take my money and run?" Seeing him, they looked as if they'd seen a ghost, trembling and breaking out in a cold sweat. "Du Hoen, how did you find us?" From a distance, Du Hoen slowly approached, pulling the axe that was embedded in the wall. "It's not hard when I have the golden axe, you bastards." Seo U trembled as he tried to explain Du Hoen we were just holding the axe. He raised it high, warning the group before him, "Don't even try to make up excuses or you'll all lose your heads." "We were wrong." From his pants pocket, Du Hoen took out something. "I guess I'll have to use this now." The stone he held in his hand made Seo U freeze. "Is that a pumice stone for your feet?" He chuckled and told him to pay attention. "Watch and you'll see." As soon as he finished speaking, Du Hoen clenched the stone in his hand. White smoke billowed out around him. Behind him now stood a towering stone pillar, and in his hand he held a tablet. The three of them froze for a few seconds. What the hell is that? One of the famous edicts of this law is an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. This pillar's function is to reflect any attack back at the attacker. No matter what the enemy does, it will all be sent right back at them. This is called the perfect counterattack relic. Du Hoen's next words made both Seong Won and Trang Suk grit their teeth in fear. "A new relic I just bought from the auction house. I got it early because I had to ask an employee there for a favor." A stream of light from the tablet blasted straight into his face. Du Hoen gave a scheming smile, "An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. I will answer your betrayal with a betrayal of my own."